Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Slice of Gaming Food Coma on the Batman Arkham series. A very treasured franchise amongst gaming community. You know, a lot of licensed games fans are big fans of this bad boy. So I think we all wanted to kind of do a big retrospective on these classic games, as a lot of us have recently played through them as well, and a lot of us have replayed them like 20 times, as you'll see. And I guess we just wanted to talk all things Arkham, especially with Suicide Squad coming up. We'll definitely have some thoughts about that game. But joining me on this retrospective, my boy Dark,
How's it going, guys?
and my main man Jat.
I'm the freaking Jet. It's good to be here.
He spent about 30 minutes sticking to that joke, everybody. So make sure you laugh at it. Well, before we get right into it, I gotta talk about all our platforms. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Amazon Music, and Audible. Make sure to like the podcast. Follow us on Twitter at A Slice of Gaming. And also check out our main show, A Slice of Gaming podcast, every Saturday morning. But with all that said, I think I'm going to hand it over to Dark because he is easily our expert when it comes to this series.
Yeah, so a little fun fact before we actually get into it. When it comes to video games, especially, Batman had a really rough time. For whatever reason, they could not make a really good Batman game. And it was kind of, it wasn't even just Batman. That was just a prime example, but superhero games in general, no one really was able to figure it out at the time. And then they came and Rocksteady came with Arkham Asylum, and this changed everything. And then this set the basis for all the superhero games that we know now. So that's why this game is really important for the superhero genre as a whole. Because without this, you would have had more Superman 64s. And if you guys don't know how that game is, just look up some videos on YouTube. It's horrendous. But
I've heard some people say, "Hang on, maybe it's actually good." Those people are insane, but they exist.
they are definitely people. But moving on, I wanted to go game by game, and, talk about it, see what made it work, what you didn't like, etc. So the start of Arkham Asylum. This was written by Paul Dini, and if you don't know, Paul Dini was the person behind Batman the Animated Series, which was also highly regarded as one of the best Batman works there is, and also shared Kevin Conroy as voicing Batman, along with Mark Hamill as the Joker. So
Real
I'm just gonna.
real
Oh,
quick.
here you go.
I'm sorry to like take this away from you for a second, but do we want to all like go around and talk about our history with Batman the IP?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. How about you go first, Dark? You're easily the biggest Batman fan here.
So for me, it started when I was a child, and my parents put me on Batman Animated Series, and then from there I branched out and I started watching all the movies, and later got into comics. I've played through the Arkham series, of course, multiple times. This guy he's been a big part of my life, alright? I got posters of him all over my room. Easily my favorite character in fiction, one of them. This series means a lot to me. How about you,
Um,
Wolf?
yeah. So for me, I guess like my history of Batman is kind of weird, where like I don't watch movies or like much pop culture stuff in general. So like my history with Batman is kind of just through osmosis, like hearing like YouTube videos about him, playing some of those shitty PS2, GameCube games back in the day. I played it. I played. I think there was a Batman DS or GBA game, one of the two, and I was like, "Wow, this is terrible." But like as a kid, I just loved the Batman character, so I was super into it. And then I eventually watched the Nolan trilogy, and that just absolutely reminded me how much I love the character of Batman. Watched a few of the cartoons on stuff like Cartoon Network and whatnot, and then weirdly, a franchise that it took me a while, but I eventually got to the Rocksteady Batman games around like 2019, 2020, which was weirdly like late. But I played through Asylum and City, loved them, but like never actually got to Night. And then recently, just this month, I talked about it on the last podcast. I got to Arkham Knight finally, so I'm ready to talk all things Batman.
It's pretty
How about you,
funny
Chad?
that
Oh, go
sorry
ahead.
to cut you off real quick, but it's pretty funny that you mentioned the Nolan trilogy because the Arkham game started as a Nolan trilogy tie-in game. I forgot for which movie it was. I want to say it was The Dark Knight
Batman
Returns.
Begins.
Was it
Oh
Batman
wait, no,
Begins?
I
no,
think.
or,
Oh, no, or was it it was either the Batman Begins or The Dark Knight. Not the Dark Knight. Let's way further down. But it
Yeah.
started out as a tie-in game for one of those, and they were like, you know what, just do your own fucking thing. I don't know how they managed to convince DC to do this, especially at the time as Rocksteady. They made like one other game and it was a shooter that did not score that well. So they somehow convinced DC with this one game that didn't do well. Hey, let us do a take on Batman, and it just worked out. But yeah,
Yes. So the way I got into the series, believe it or not, the first Batman um piece of media I actually watched was excuse me, The Dark Knight Rises in theaters, and then
Whoa.
yeah, and that was a pretty good movie. I know there are some haters for that movie, but I
It's a
liked it.
good movie. I don't know why people
the
think it's a
Nolan
bad
trilogy is good. It
Mhm.
Yeah, I
has,
love all three of them.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, Dark
exactly.
Knight is easily the best one, but like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. And then after that, I did watch the rest of the movies, and then I got into the Arkham games, and like I never fully finished them at that time, but then I got back like last year and sorry, and the year before, and beat through Asylum and City. And yeah, like throughout this time, I've been checking out the other Batman media, like even some of the anime films, like Under the Red Hood is really good. Um, and I actually really like the Lego Batman movie. That one didn't have to go that hard, but they did.
It was so good. I don't know why it's as good as it is.
DC
Exactly.
when it comes to animation is just they're normally really good.
Yeah. Oh, and I think my favorite Batman so far has been Twilight Batman.
That's very. I really like that version of Batman. So he
Yeah.
did a really good job, surprisingly. But I had my doubts. But yeah, so let's start by going into what did you guys think of the story of Arkham Asylum? I want to go last one. I probably have the most to say on it, but I want to hear what you guys' thoughts on it. All right.
So with Arkham Asylum, so like this is actually my favorite Batman game, and I'll get into why later on. But like the whole I just love that kind of like constricted nature of Asylum. Kind of you are just stuck in this asylum. You're not in Gotham. You're not in this massive city, even in Arkham City. You're in an asylum and you're going from building to building. And the way that they're able to like facilitate story moments and even showcase all of Batman's like incredible villains. That's one of the things that kind of exemplifies what makes Batman so good is that his villains are as good as they are, right up there with Spider-Man's villains. And you get to see every one of them, and it never felt like a fan service, like, oh, they're just doing this for the sake of showing this character. Like, it makes sense that they're in Arkham Asylum, so it fits in with the story of the characters and all that. I think honestly, the story isn't really why I love the game as much as I do. It is more so a lot of it comes down to that Metroidvania design, that kind of gameplay and combat system. But like I do overall remember enjoying the story quite a bit, especially just moments with like Bane and stuff because I'm such a Bane fanboy. So just any scene with Bane gets me excited. I will say the ending is kind of stupid with Joker taking the serum. Just
Oh yeah, I do want to
not the
mention.
joke.
Sorry for cutting off real quick.
Go for
There
it. Go
will
for
be
it.
spoilers on this. We are covering spoilers across all the games,
Yeah, these are like
so you have
10-year-old
warned. You have
games.
been warned.
you, you've played these games. Come on, guys. But yeah, no, it's a little silly that whole ending sequence. But even then, like I don't know if you count this as story as much, but just like the Scarecrow sequence is kind of
Yeah,
just
that counts
one of
as
the
story.
highlights of that game. Yeah, that whole sequence was just an exemplification of what Rocksteady was able to nail with the Batman character and IP, and just how they handled these villains. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on that story.
How about you, Jet?
Yeah, so my thoughts on it are very similar to Wolf. I definitely like this one more than City in that I just like how smaller the world is and that Metroidvania style. And I also like how the story starts in one location, like within the asylum, and like like as you're progressing, of course, there's that whole sequence at the beginning with the Joker. I thought was really good, and then yeah, like this is where I guess, like, you you get to learn how one of the best superhero combats works. And yeah, it just felt like really clean, just playing it as Batman in the asylum, and then when you get out of the asylum, and yeah, also one of my favorite sequences was that fake out where you're in the Joker's position about to be like incinerated and everything.
That's Arkham Knight.
No, wait, what? Oh, wait, wasn't it
It,
Arkham Asylum?
Wow.
that
No, no,
happens in Arkham Knight.
you're thinking of when you're not incinerated, but you're in the
Oh,
Joker's
sorry.
position when you're getting taken
Yeah.
into the prison. That's the
Yep.
Scarecrow
So yeah,
sequence.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the Scarecrow one where they. Yeah.
Yeah, but now that Scarecrow sequence is clearly like a very big highlight
Aircraft
for
was
us if
very much
both
a
of us
highlight
mentioned
of
Yeah.
the Asylum. I
it.
agree.
Yeah, not Night.
Not
We can
I'll
talk
say
about
that right.
well, we'll
We'll
talk
talk
about
about
that
it when
later.
we get to it.
I guess for me, when it comes to Asylum, it's my second favorite, but I do think City is the better game in every way. But I'll get into that later. But I really did enjoy Asylum. There's something about Asylum that they didn't replicate with the other games, which is the art style is very dark and gothic. Whereas like it looks like a comic, like it looks like straight out of the comic books. I don't know how to describe it. But if you would like go back and look at footage of it now and compare it to City, there's a weird like cell shading effect to it that I
Yeah,
really
no, you
enjoyed.
mean. Yeah.
In terms of story, this feels like a classic Batman story and one of the best because they had Paul Dini working on it. Um, Joker setting up everything inside the asylum and Batman like kind of onto it, but he wasn't sure what was going on. It was really cool. One thing I really did enjoy was the new designs for everybody. So I'm not sure if you guys seen Killer Croc before, but he was never as intimidating as they made him in this game. They made him insane. He was freaking huge in this game.
I never heard of Killer Croc before Arkham Asylum, but then just seeing him in this game, I'm like, oh shit, this guy's actually kind of badass.
Yeah, so normally Killer Croc is just like he's a slightly taller than average person. So like he'll be like 6, 7 feet. And then he just has like scales. That's about it. In this game they made him look like a monster, which was really cool. What else happened in the story? I do agree with you that when it comes to the ending, I do think they kind of jumped the shark. It was super serious and like solid in my opinion till that point, and then they were like, okay, we're just doing whatever. But I like that
It,
they also did have seriousness all up until that point, like with Bane, him being like experimented on, and by the doctor, which he called her a witch multiple times, saying that they weren't being treated right in the asylum. There was, of course, the scarecrow sequences. I think my favorite one is when it looks like the game broke.
yeah, that was just like the whole
Yeah.
screen basically breaks
I was a
apart. I
kid,
thought
so
my TV was fucked up.
yeah, I was a kid, and when that happened, I thought I broke the game. I was so scared. I was like, "Oh
I,
shit, I broke the game." But no, and then like it restarts from the beginning. Like what the fuck? But everything's different. The scarecrow sequences was fucking amazing. And something really interesting about them too is that before they start, you can either see in the vents like the scarecrow toxin coming through, and like Batman will start coughing really weird. Like, and when you're playing the
yeah.
first time around, you won't notice it. It's only on repeat like playthroughs you'll notice it. Like they set everything up properly. It was incredible.
I
And oh,
real
yeah, you
quick
can go.
on the ending. I just want to point out with the ending. I think what you were saying is like they basically did jump the shark. The reason everyone hates the way it ends is because like Joker is shown as classic Joker being such a serious villain, and then it felt like well we need a final boss, and I guess Joker could be the final boss, so we just make him a big brute powerhouse. It's extremely silly and just kind of ruins like what Joker's. It felt like they didn't understand Joker's character at that final boss, but yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off.
I'm
Go
not
ahead.
really sure what they were thinking. And then on top of it, they had a sequence where Batman put the explosive gel on his wrist. Who like what? That wouldn't have done anything. It doesn't make any sense in
It
that
was
fight.
so real for that.
What else? Oh, yeah, Poison Ivy was really interesting too. She had her own little segment, and she
Yes.
was a really good boss fight too as
Yeah.
well. Something
Oh
I do
yeah.
want to point out that also Asylum does the best in my opinion is the character bios. If you don't know anything about Batman, you
Yeah.
can go into this, and the character bios will show you the character, their history. I think they even tell you like some of the comics that they're from, and then go into them in depth. And they also have audio recordings and tapes you can listen to of these characters. And it was a really good job of getting people into the series.
It was so weird playing Arkham Knight because like they didn't have the voice recordings for every character. It was only a select few. But like with Asylum, I think almost every character in that game had a voice recording. Like
Yeah,
one of
it
my
was just about
favorites.
every character. I think
I,
besides a
I
few.
one of my favorites was with what's it called, Harley Quinn, where you kind of see the Joker turning her into Harley Quinn and everything with that whole like therapy session. It's like a really interesting set of events that like every character has an interesting situation in that regard.
I do want to like they something that was kind of new was the Titan formula. I can see that it had potential, but I feel like they didn't really they took in the wrong direction. They said made it like, oh, the Joker juice, but I feel like they could have really done something really cool with Bane, or like set
If
him up as the main villain for part two, which they could have done because it would have worked, but they took in a different direction. I don't know.
it very much felt like it was like we need some type of like story thing to make ourselves like stand out. Oh, Titan formula. It's like Titan formula as a concept is interesting, but like it really just kind of lost its luster as soon as they gave it to Joker, in my opinion. Where I'm like, okay, what is this?
Also, something really cool. I think this is probably like the last thing I personally really liked about the story was the fact that Batman had a Batcave built inside the island. Like
Yeah.
this guy, how did he have
that
the time to do this?
he's a planner, bro. He knew
Yeah.
something like this would happen.
Yeah, and also, I mean, major spoiler, his secret identity is Bruce Wayne, so this man's loaded. He can do it.
Oh shit, is it? I didn't know that. Fuck.
Oh,
I
that
know.
is
Oh my.
world
Yeah.
reveal, right? But yeah, I want to move things on to the combat because this game, alongside having a really good story, introduced one of the best combat systems in gaming, in my opinion, which was the free flow combat system. How did you guys feel about it?
Uh, I mean, it. There's not really much to say that hasn't been said already. It's one of those combat systems. I mean, Spider-Man pretty much directly took from it. Which I mean, I'm not trying to say Spider-Man
They
ripped
took
it
from it
off, but like,
to an extent, and we can get into
yeah,
that
no,
a
of
little bit.
course, it's not the exact same. I'm just saying like it is very much the core of the classic punch counter system. That to me is just it works because it's so simplistic, but it gets so complex later on, especially when you get into the later Batman games. But the way you just it's an insane feeling where you could punch someone and then on the other side of the room just twirl around, do a couple rolls, and punch the other guy, and just go from guy to guy. And it never feels unrealistic because you know Batman is this expert martial artist and strategist, and it just feels like this. I hate to say the thing, it really does make you feel like Batman,
No, but that's the
and I
thing.
mean like
Let's talk about that for a second. That is the thing. That phrase, you feel like the character, or feel like that came from these games, and yeah, now it gets memed on. But like, it started here, and it is such a high praise that you can give to a game and be like, "Yo, I feel like Batman." I remember, I think one of the trailers for Arkham Knight was "I am Batman," and it was a bunch of different people saying "I am Batman, I am Batman," until Kevin Conroy himself was the last one to say, "Okay, I'm Batman."
I mean, yeah, no, it's just like again, like there's just not much else to say about this combat system that hasn't been said already. It's just it works because it is so simplistic, and that's. I know it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but really, there's not. It's warrants repeating because it Rocksteady looked at the combat systems of other superhero games, and it's like all these gadget, these weird things, and it's like, no, this doesn't work. Let's just make a classic punch counter system, but refine it to basically it works as well as it does because of the animations. Because every enemy has such a clean animation to show you when they're going to attack, where it doesn't feel like you get punched for no fucking reason. It genuinely feels like you are reacting to their attacks the way Batman would. It's a very simplistic, clean, effective combat system, and those are some of my favorites in gaming.
Yeah, and to add on to that, it was very simplistic, but then they added the gadgets, and Batman has a large repertoire of gadgets at his
Yep.
disposal, and they're like attached to hotkeys pretty much, and they fit so naturally into combat where you just find yourself doing it without even thinking at times. They did a really good job with it. The interesting
Chat, what
thing,
about you?
oh yeah, my
Oh,
bad.
sorry.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say the interesting thing about it was that Spider-Man, they did copy the system, but Spider-Man had a more heavy reliance on gadgets compared to Batman, which I felt like it should be swapped because Batman isn't as physically strong as Spider-Man, but it's just something to point out.
Yeah, it's one of those small things, but I get what you mean.
Jet,
Yeah. So with the combat, like it literally inspired like other games to do the same combat. Like even just Warner Brothers, one of their other games, Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, right? Like those ones have this similar combat, and I think that really speaks to it. Like you guys were saying, like it makes you feel like Batman, and like this really sets the bar on like how how fun combat style should be in an action game. And yeah, like I really like that they tried like throughout like from Asylum to City and even Night to some extent. Like they tried evolving it in some way, like trying to add something new, but not changing it like drastically.
Something that you touched on earlier, Wolf, was that Asylum is a Metroidvania, and this is true. This is the only one in the series that is like this, where Asylum is a very tight and compact place, and you'll find yourself going back and forth with new gadgets that you unlock, unlocking new areas to progress the story. I feel like it worked really well here, even though it's not like a traditional Metroidvania. That little piece of it that they had, I feel like it helped for this type of story and narrative that they were going for. How do you guys feel about that?
I mean, Metroidvania is one of those. I'm one of those people where you say the word Metroidvania and I immediately just perk up. It's one of my favorite genres because it's a genre that works because it's I don't know. It feels good to find stuff, for lack of a better word. And I guess just like to me, the idea of like a 3D Metroidvania is so fucking cool and interesting to me. And the way Arkham Asylum utilizes this through Batman's gadgets, and it's not one of those things where Batman finds a gadget. It's I need this for a specific situation. Let me call the Batwing or the Batmobile to grab it for me so that like I can get through the asylum more effectively. And you're slowly uncovering more and more of the asylum through finding these different pieces. And one of my favorite details, we could talk about Riddler trophies later, but like it was just like a cool feeling when like you saw a Riddler trophy and it's like, ah shit, I can't get that yet. And then you find the item, it's like, that's how I get that Riddler trophy earlier. Let me go back for it. And this is the only Batman game where I actually went for all the Riddler trophies because it was a tight and compact area. And then it really comes down to just like why this is the only Batman game that can work as a Metroidvania because it's so tight and compact. The Asylum fits for that type of nature, and I would love more games to take this approach towards their game building. Like the fact that like we don't see more games, they're trying to go open world. Oh, if it's a superhero, they gotta explore the whole city. I love how Arkham Asylum was willing to go. No, it's just Batman in this asylum, and to me, like that is the peak of the series because it was again tight and compact and utilized that Metroidvania design to its fullest extent.
I could be wrong, but the only other game that I think does this is Metroid Prime, where it's a 3D Metroidvania. I don't know any other game that does
Yes.
this.
Dark Souls, you can argue, but I don't. I don't
I
count
don't,
this
I
one.
don't, I don't consider Dark Souls a Metroidvania.
Yeah, no. People try to say that, but it's like, I mean, you're just getting keys. You're not getting new abilities.
What about you, Jet? How do you feel about it?
Just like about the game overall, or like
As a
the
No,
Metroidvania.
as a
oh oh
Metroidvania.
oh oh sorry, yeah, just I'm in the game style, yeah. So as the game style in a Metroidvania, yeah, I 100% agree with Wolf in that, um, i- in that like I feel like when the world is bigger, when it's a bit like bloated, like it just feels like there's too much to do that I don't really want to do. Like with Asylum, because it's condensed and it's tight, it it feels nicer just to explore like the, these these small areas because oh yeah, like this is basically it, and like bigger doesn't always mean better, and so uh, and like they really put like really nice details in these world. Like I especially love the botanical gardens when you do the poison ivy boss fight. That was really sick.
Oh my god, yeah.
Do you guys want to touch about the boss fights real quick? There was only a handful of them, but they were really well thought out for the most part. Besides, the Joker fight.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
and they
go
oh
ahead,
yeah.
Jack.
No, I was gonna say, and I liked how different they all felt. Like, for example, with Bane, the strategy is, oh, you have to get on back, and then
Mhm.
yeah, and like it was also different with, of course, with Poison Ivy, and then that weird ending fight where Joker is now this like big what do you call it? Like, what's the word they describe for him? He's like this big monster thing.
Like a
The
big brute.
Titan, I guess.
He's a
Yeah.
brute.
Yeah, yeah.
There's also two other fights you missed. The Scarecrow, that counts as a fight, the Scarecrow sections, where you
Oh
have
Yes,
yeah,
the
to
Scarecrow.
Scarecrow.
you have to
Yeah.
stealthily fight your way towards this giant flashlight to break yourself out of the fear toxin.
Oh my gosh,
And
I
then there
yes.
was
love
oh no, you go.
I love fights in games that are platforming. Like
Yeah.
I mean, like it reminds me of the Super Mario 3D land final boss, if you remember, Jet, or like Odyssey, like that whole final
Oh yeah.
sequence.
Oh yeah.
I love when games do that.
Yeah.
And then in my opinion, this was even more like scary than the Scarecrow fight. The Killer Croc boss fight. This whole section of the game where you're looking for, I think it was like eggs or something at the time. I don't remember exactly what you were looking for something, and you had to go through the sewers on these wooden platforms, and every now and then Croc would just like pop out and start hunting you down. That was really
Yeah,
well done.
Yeah.
it also added because of how much I hate sewer levels. And that was one of the ones where I'm like, oh, this is actually a good sewer section because of that whole sequence. So honestly, that's impressive.
Yeah, we touched on it a bit earlier with Riddler trophies and like how the world is. But yeah, they filled the ever living shit out of the asylum with just all types of different like things you can find. And the Riddler trophies was a big part of this. I hope you like find and explore them out. How did you feel about the Riddler trophies in this game particularly? But
I
they're different in
fucking
each game.
love them. I love them in this game. This is the only game where I collected all the Riddler trophies. And it wasn't like I tried to do it in City or Night, but I got a good amount, but I gave up. No, no. It was literally like in those games, I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this shit. Versus Asylum, where listen, word of the day, Titan condensed. But I mean, just that map fits in a situation where you're trying to find all of a certain item, where you're slowly looking around and you see like just a Riddler trophy out in the distance. And I barely used a guide. I just found them all usually like just by my own instincts. I forget, was this the game with the actual riddles you had to solve? Like, did they introduce that here?
No, that's City. Where like
Okay,
where he'll
because
tell you a riddle and you have to like
I
figure it.
fucking hate
Yeah.
those. I hate those so much. If you know me, I am horrible at solving riddles. If you give me a riddle, I will not be able to solve it. Like the Riddler, I'd be a chump to him. He would destroy me. but no, I mean like Asylum, just clean and simple. Just hey, look for trophies, figure out utilizing the items that you slowly gain throughout the game, and it was just a cool feeling that when you actually collect them all, the Riddler is caught. He is found and he is thrown in Gotham like prison or whatever. I forget what it was, but like it was like a cool moment where like you call the Riddler and you just hear him getting detained at that moment. Stuff like that. I'm a sucker for 100% rewards like that, and that was just a cool moment of like, yeah, I fucking got the Riddler. I figured out his game.
How about you, Jet?
So didn't actually collect all the Riddler trophies, but I, I collected like a few of the a few of the easier ones, and I do like it in this one, especially where like when you get a Riddler trophy, you always hear some sort of commentary from Riddler, which is usually sassy. Like you collect one, that
Mhm.
was an easy one.
Every time it's like that was an easy one. It's like okay, then where are the hard ones?
I liked. I didn't. So for Asylum, I did not collect them all because I just didn't really care about the Riddler like that. But the one thing I did like is that a lot of these were tied to Easter eggs. So I remember a few at the top of my head. When inside the botanical gardens, for example, when you like crawling through the grates, if you look down at one of the areas, you will find the rat catcher stuff. And it's a Riddler trophy because it wasn't just the trophies themselves; they were also like things you had to scan, and that would count as a trophy. So yeah, they had like the rat catcher one, or when you go to the morgue, if you start checking all the bodies, one of them will be Ra's al Ghul, which you know, Ra's in the Batman universe, he dies who knows how many times, but he always comes back. That's the thing with him. And they had
Oh,
like cool
that's
little
sick.
Easter eggs like that to Batman's entire mythos that was really unique. What I found really cool. The game has a lot of secrets, but there was one that was not found until the devs told us about it, which was if you were to
This
go to the mayor's room, there is a secret wall where you have to put three explosive gels in a very specific location. How do they expect anyone to find this? There is no hints, no nothing to this. But if you blow it up, it shows the plans for Arkham City.
see stuff like that is so fucking cool, and we know that's never gonna be possible. Like it's very rare for games to be able to have stuff like that because data miners just data mine the whole game. And it's like, oh, there it is, and just like the fact that it was just this secret, like that showed literally the map for Arkham City that nobody found. It's just
The
creative
devs had
stuff.
I think it came out either directly before or like shortly after City came out, where the devs were like, "There is something here. Go find it." And it's a really cool Easter egg.
100%.
One thing I want to mention before we move on to City is the Predator rooms. So we didn't talk about them. These are the sections of the game where you pretty much have to be stealthy. There's people, all the guards have guns and stuff, and you're normally on top of like a gargoyle or something, and you have to pick them off one by one. this to me felt like true Batman, where like you're being stealthy and you just like being the scary ass creature in the night, pretty much. How do you guys feel about it?
Hang on, say again. So specifically, what section?
The Predator rooms, where
Oh my
it's the
god,
stealth sections.
dude! I'm a fanatic for stealth sections in games, and like this is one of those games that like the stealth just feels perfect. Where it's just that feeling of like you take out a guard and one of them is just like, "Yo, what happened?" and you just try to like finagle with them. It really fits with just the whole deal with Batman is fear. He makes enemies fear him, and just taking out every guard one by one until there's just one guy left. And my favorite thing to do in any Batman game is when there is just one guy left, I just start fucking with him, where I just throw batarangs and just play around with him, and then just sneak up right behind him, do what is effectively tapping his shoulder, and then just knock him out in one hit. Stuff like that is just it, it's one of those things where it took a long time for the animation team to make it work, but they fucking made it work, and I am so goddamn happy they did.
How about you, Jet?
So yeah, this was probably my favorite part of the game was trying to find a way so that you're doing this like in in a really stealthy way, and like of course you're like you're perched up, and then you're finding which one to like to kill first. Like it's usually the one that's like the furthest through everybody. But the part that really adds to it for me, it's like when you stealthily kill someone, the, or like take them out because Batman doesn't kill, of course. you
Yeah, of
y-
course.
yeah, yeah. You hear Joker like go like, oh, someone is like he says something like, oh, one of you is down, and then the what do you call it? Like the enemies are like, you are the boss, and then they start looking for him, and I think that's like a really neat mechanic to make it more realistic, rather than like you just knock one out and no one cares.
Yeah, adding on
Yeah,
to that, there's
sorry,
something
go
really there's something really cool you can do where if you purposely do a loud takedown, because you can do stealth versus loud. If you
Yeah,
purposely do a loud take, you let everybody know that something's going on, and they all react differently. And it's really cool to watching, like, sitting back and watching it happen.
it's just
yeah,
like one of those cool things of again making you feel like Batman slowly uncovering basically the puzzle of these rooms. And Jet, that's such a perfect like thing to add. Just Joker saying like, yeah, guys, one of you is down." It just adds a lot to just the aesthetic of feeling like Batman, and like also just kind of the slight difficulty increase. And I forget, was Asylum the one that added that still had the thing where, oh, if he's on the gargoyle, so so they
No, that's
start
pretty cool.
destroying the gargoyle heads. Okay, so
That's
that
it.
was later on.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
But
it's an
something really
evolution.
Yeah, but they did have a lot of attention to detail that a lot of people don't appreciate. Like when you start taking people out stealthily, and at first, if they don't notice, they're not gonna do anything. But if you make a noise, or if the Joker, one of them, calls it out, if you go into the detective vision and you like look at an enemy, you can see their vitality, like their heartbeat, and their heartbeat and everything will go to frightened. Not that many
Yes,
people notice. It'll go to frightened. It's sort of being bugged up, but you can tell that they're terrified of what's going on.
that's a perfect detail. Just again to show like the fear of Batman. That's his greatest asset.
But yeah, do you guys have anything else to talk about with Asylum before we move on to City?
Um, I think that's everything. I mean, like just Arkham Asylum is still easily my favorite Batman game. And I know that I don't even know if that's a hot take anymore, but
Oh,
like
it's not a hot
obviously,
take.
yeah, because like I know everyone loves City, but like it was one of those things where playing City, like I was like, yeah, I really enjoy this. Like I still love it, but like Asylum was that Batman game for me that kind of just again tight and compact. Like that map just fits for what my personal sensibilities are in what I enjoy about gaming, and it is just like I think also like it is kind of that small thing of like, oh, this first one is just it was the first one to do it, so like there is kind of an inherent bias where like this is the first one I played and it just feels so fucking good the first time around, where even as the games kept refining and refining that combat system, I just can't get over like that first feeling of playing Asylum and taking out a guard on a ledge, or just getting in a brawl with like 12 guards and taking them all out without taking a single scratch. It's hard to really replicate that feeling in any video game. So, of the fact that Asylum did it first was like a weird. It is a weird bias, but also just one that really hit for me. So yeah, Asylum is easily my favorite. If I were to rate the game on a scale, I would give it a 9 because I do think there are issues with the game inherently, mainly with the ending being very stupid and just like weird situations where like sometimes the combat bugs out more than usual in Asylum than I think the other Batman games. But despite all that, I do overall love the game.
Yeah, I agree. I would also give it a 9. When you talk about like this was the first for a lot of things, but it wasn't just the first game in the series. This was also the first superhero game that's like, wait a minute, there's a market here that can be done right, and this set like a genre pretty much. Like when Spider-Man first came out, the immediate comparison was to this game, where they're like, okay, this is Batman Arkham Spider, and now you have other games replicating the same thing as well.
Mhm.
How about you, Jet? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, so overall, this is like I think yeah, this is the like one of the best experiences to have in a game as a superhero. And yes, similar to what you guys said, I also would give this a 9. And and I'm just really happy to have played like just the fact that like this game makes you kind of appreciate the settings of the game as a whole. They're like, oh, this asylum is really cool, and like the what do you call it, like the medical areas and everything. It's like, man, I would love for another Batman game to just revisit these because there seems like a lot of things you can do in those areas.
Right. So moving on to Arkham City. This is, in my opinion, the Batman experience. When you think of Batman, I think of Arkham City and everything that I think this game is perfect in every way. But let's hear what you guys have to say about it first. Or you can go first, Wolf.
Yeah, Arkham City is a weird one for me where like I played it immediately after beating Asylum, and while I still loved a lot of aspects about it, it was one of those things where I wasn't sold on the open world. I thought it was a very cool idea and concept. I think there was a lot of cool things execution wise, but it was one of those things of I'm kind of just going back and forth from the same area, and I feel like the gliding didn't get refined enough to really warrant me wanting to be able to glide around the city the same way, like swinging around as Spider-Man. An unfair thing is that I did play Spider-Man before Batman, and I just think movement wise, I enjoyed those games a bit more. But like even then, like I just think that city does not inherit to Batman's moveset as well as I think it should. I think if the glide maybe was a bit faster, there was like a less weighty feeling to it, it would have worked. But then it would kind of take away from just how good Batman feels in combat. So they're kind of at a weird impasse where, well, the movement isn't as clean as I want it to be, but the combat is still as perfection can be. So like maybe a lot of my thoughts are a little unfair, but I will say one thing that City does have is that it easily has my favorite story of the three games. Maybe arguably I like Knight's story more. I don't know. I'm a little mixed.
There is no way.
No, like I think there are parts of Knight's stories I enjoy more, but I do overall enjoy Cities more because I don't want to get bullied by you. But no, I mean I don't know. Overall, I do think City is an overall like like you said, it kind of is like a benchmark game. It is a very important game, not just to Batman, but just to gaming in general. It was just like, hey, they can't. There's no way they could strike lightning twice in a row, and they just did that. And I think to a lot of people, it is the definitive Batman experience, and I can fully see why.
How about you, Jet?
So I like despite liking Asylum more, I still really like my experience with City for like the most part. It just like the city still felt nice, and the combat felt good. Like it's just more of the same, but in a very good way. And yeah, in terms of story, I did really like this one too. Like, and one of my favorite sequences, it was near the beginning with that like that like double Joker twist. I thought that was a really cool
That was
twist.
sick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So this game, they really did the impossible. At the time, nobody thought like, hey, is it possible to improve this game? Because at the time, this was the best superhero game, and they did times 100, in my opinion. Did they improve it? I think besides Batman Hush, this is like one of the only other stories to feature a majority, if not the entirety, of Batman's rogues gallery, but in a way that does not feel bloated. I don't know how Paul Dini managed to pull this off, but he did. And on top of it, they killed off the Joker, which is like a major thing to do. that a
I
lot of
could
people
not
were
believe
scared to
that.
do. Not only did they
Yeah.
do it, but they pulled it off in a way that made sense and was really well thought out.
I mean, that whole sequence at the end, like I know we're kind of like jumping ahead, but like of Batman carrying the Joker out, and everyone is so shocked to see what has truly unfolded. It's just that type of writing. You don't get writing like that unless the writer is willing to take risks. And as you said, Paul Dini, he is willing to take risks, and it led to an incredible ending.
Yeah, this story had a lot of twists and turns. At first, and even during the promotion, it's promoted that Hugo Strange is the main villain of this game. He really isn't.
Yeah,
He's very. If
Yeah.
there is a
I
complaint to
didn't
have
like
about this
him.
game story wise, it is about Hugo Strange. He was kind of just like an ass that you didn't like. He was just annoying. And throughout the game, they keep promoting all this Protocol 10, trying to figure out what it is. It, it wasn't related to Hugo Strange like that. It turned out that Ra's al Ghul was the mastermind behind everything, and it was to kill everybody, which makes sense for Ra's plans. But I feel like if there was a negative, Hugo Strange wasn't implemented as good as he could have been.
I 100% agree. I mean, Hugo Strange was like one of those things where sometimes I look back on this game, it's like, oh yeah, he was in that game. Like he very much felt like the main villain that was upstaged by all the side villains, like literally all the side villains. I think Penguin, Doctor Freeze, obviously Joker, all had more compelling arcs than Hugo Strange. And that's not to say Hugo Strange is like was a awful villain. Like I
It's not
wasn't
bad,
angry.
but it's underwhelming because they really pushed like Hugo Strange. And the thing with Hugo Strange, like the main thing with Hugo Strange is that he eventually does find out who Batman is, and he uses that against him. Which they kind of did here, but like it gets dropped so quickly.
That was the frustrating thing because like it was that moment of like, oh shit, he knows Batman's identity, and only a select few characters ever know that. It's this big deal, but like it never really felt like anything that special when he. It felt like he wasn't utilizing that powerful secret as much as any other character could have.
How about you, Chet? What do you think about him?
Just about the villains. Like I think like the
Specifically, Strange.
yes, Strange. Like I don't know. I liked where they were definitely going with the story at first, but yeah, like it wasn't my favorite villain in this story. Like for me, it was still just the Joker because of his constant presence and just the game developing on the Batman versus Joker rivalry.
What the Joker did in this game was it was incredible storytelling, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Purposely giving Batman a blood transfusion to force him to find a cure is I don't know. It seems like such a Joker thing to do. It was done so well. Adding on to it, we didn't really touch on it on Asylum because I forgot to mention it. But if you had the PlayStation version, you was also able to play as Joker. He was very limited in his gadgets. I think he had like 3 gadgets, and one of them was just a gun. He just whips out a gun and kills like whoever you shoot at. But this game, they introduced a lot more playable characters. It was Catwoman, who had her own side story, Robin, Batman, and Nightwing. Yeah, that was all the playable characters they had at the time. How do you guys feel about those?
I mean, playing as Catwoman is always a plus. Let's be honest here, guys.
Oh,
but
that was fun.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really think about the playable characters as much. It is kind of like one of those things where they give me all these characters, and it's like, oh yeah, check out all these characters. And unfairly, I'm like, I just want to play as Batman. It is just like an unfair thing, but like Batman is just so badass that like he's the only character I was really interested in playing. And that's not to say I dislike the other characters at all. Like far from it. Like I love these characters. It's just Batman is Batman. It's hard to really compete with that.
That's very true, in my opinion. Catwoman, she did have her own story compared to the other ones. Other ones were just playable in like challenge maps and stuff. But Catwoman had her own story to it, which was pretty interesting because it played alongside Batman's. They would intertweet the two a lot. How did you guys feel about that?
I mean,
Um, I,
I just yeah.
oh,
Go ahead, Jeff, please.
no, I was gonna say that I definitely did like those sections in that it just gives you like a little bit of a break from from playing as Batman and like they try to make it a bit a bit different so that you still do feel like Catwoman. Like her stealth sections were really cool. I thought.
I liked her just how different she felt. she felt a lot more nimble than Batman, and Batman in this game felt a lot more beefier. Like when Batman hits you in City compared to like Asylum, it sounds like he's killing you in this game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Nah, sound design definitely was an improvement.
Not only that, it's like everything in general was an improvement. You want to get into the combat real quick? They improved damn near everything. They made the, the combat a lot faster. It's a lot faster and snappier, and then they just gave you more gadgets to play with, which is all they really needed to do.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those things where like it's if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it was very much a refinement of Asylum's mechanics. This was the game that introduced the cool thing during stealth, where if you kept using gargoyles, they would destroy the gargoyles. If you kept like going under the grates, they would start searching around the grates more often. Like stuff like that really added to just the allure of like AI learning and figuring out Batman strategies and going like, okay, let's try to adapt to it. So you have to figure out as a player, okay, let me think about the different ideas I can do to make this better work. Now, even with that, I do think overall the combat system is a major positive from Asylum, just because it is a refinement. But it doesn't thread the needle so much to where going back to Asylum, it's like, oh, this is unplayable. It very much is just the same combat system, but it feels a bit better. But and of course, that's not a negative at all. Like it's just like, hey, we made like this cake taste even better. It's like, yeah, the old cake still tastes good. I could go back to it, but yeah, this new cake definitely tastes better.
One thing that's unique to the city, well, not unique, but the first city. This was the first semi-open world Batman game, and this, in my opinion, replicated that feeling from the animated series, where you see him gliding around from rooftop to rooftop, and just you get to brood on top of gargoyles inside of an open city compared to a condensed area like Asylum, and I loved it. Yeah, I would do agree the gliding could have been a bit faster. Yeah, there was the grapnel boost, but like I feel like Knight had the best grapnel boost. You would fly.
Oh yeah.
Wait, how do you
I
guys
mean,
feel about that?
uh, I mean, to me, it's just like the idea of a Batman open world sounds better in my head than it actually was. And that's not to say it's bad in City. I think City's open world might actually flow a bit better than Knight's, though that is arguable. I think they're actually kind of even in terms of their open world because there is just kind of an undeniable cool feeling to like drifting around like Gotham in the Batmobile. But we'll get to Night later. We all have our flaws with Night, but like even then, like City has this really cool feeling of as you say, gliding around the world. Again, I just think that Batman's heaviness, the way he controls, feels so good for combat, feels so good for condensed areas. One of my favorite areas is Penguin's like whole museum mansion area, and like that very much felt like an Asylum area to me, where I was slowly like figuring out each combat puzzle, each room, stealthing my way through. Like that was like one of the highlights of the game to me. But it was just one of those things where I kind of just got tired of like flying around the city because it's just, yes, the allure is there from a stylistic standpoint. It is that incredible feeling of like sitting on a gargoyle, seeing a couple of guards just like talking around. Which, by the way, the Batman Arkham series has some of the best goon dialogue in gaming. Like that's something we have not mentioned, but like I love just hearing the goons just having a normal conversation and go, "It's the freaking bat!" Never gets old.
They have
But
so many lines of dialogue. It's hilarious.
yeah.
I've never heard a repeated line of dialogue. It is surprising, but even then, like to me, Cities like open world is such a cool idea on paper, but it doesn't flow as naturally as I think it could have. And now, granted, maybe I'm just an Asylum fanboy, but like Batman's moveset very much felt built for Asylum, and I feel like they could have spent a bit more time building out, at least changing his moveset or feeling enough to make it work in an open world. But I guess that's just me. Jet, how about you?
Yes. So in terms of the combat, I like how very much similar it was like to Asylum in that yeah you're still fighting Batman. There's just more gadgets and yeah it does feel a little bit smoother, but I do agree with you in that the combat does feel better for a like a more like condensed and tight Batman game than for a huge open world one. Although the sections that you do play like the combat in uh, are still really really fun to play and like I guess yeah yeah, I just I enjoyed this combat more than Asylum. I think. Yeah.
I would agree. Staying on the topic of combat, this game's boss fights went above and
Yes,
beyond. They
that's what I
went
want to talk
insane.
about.
Yes.
They had. I'm just going off the top of my head from who I remember. You had Solomon Grundy. You had Mr. Freeze, which is arguably one of the best bosses ever
Yes,
designed.
that's
Oh
You
the
my
had
one
god.
I was
Clayface,
thinking of.
and you had Raish. And I could be forgetting one, but we'll just go through this right now.
Was Poison Ivy a boss fight in
Poison
this
Ivy, yeah,
game
Poison
too?
Ivy was a boss fight for Catwoman.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A Solomon Grundy fight. All these fights, they're not so with Asylum, some of the fights were similar, like Bane and Joker Titan Joker were pretty much like the same fight. We just had to do different things very slightly. All the fights in this game felt distinct. Solomon Grundy was an insane fight because it comes literally out of nowhere. You was not expecting that. Why did the penguin just have him sitting there? Who knows? But how do you guys
To me,
like?
the
Yeah,
highlight is Mr. Freeze. I mean, it
he's
goes back
the,
to what I was
the
saying
highlight.
about it was what I was saying earlier about just like the stealth utilized against you, and like Mr. Friesen is an antithesis of that, where you attack him from under the grates. It's like, yeah, that's not going to work on me next time, Batman. It shows how the AI in this game isn't just going to roll over and let you keep doing the same strategy over and over again. It's going to be like, no, you have to learn, you have to figure out new ideas, new ways of approaching this enemy to, in a way, outsmart him, because that's what Batman does to his villains. He outsmarts them, and this was kind of a perfect way to exemplify that through gameplay: is outsmarting Mister Freeze through utilizing the grates and then going through the gargoyles and doing all these different strategies to try to figure out how to probe at his weaknesses and eventually take him down once and for all. Stuff like that is kind of just like the perfect exemplification of how to do a boss fight right, and it's easily one of my favorite parts of any of the Arkham games.
Yeah, if you guys don't know how this boss fight plays out, pretty much, you would have to stealthily take him down multiple times, but you had to do it in a different way each time because he would counter, like he would adapt to what you're doing. But yeah, Jet, how about you? You have any highlights from any of the bosses?
Oh yeah, yeah. So other than Mr. Freeze, definitely the Solomon Grundy, like that cage fight, I thought it was pretty cool, and it just like it just felt like, I guess, something that feels like classic Batman. Where in Asylum, I guess the only other comparison was the Bane fight, where because he was also very buff and jacked, like I thought that that whole sequence just felt like really cool, because like you just feel powerful after defeating him, and then I mean, of course, the penguin got away after that, but still.
I don't know about you guys, but another one of my favorites was Ra's al Ghul and how he handled like drinking from the last, like the demon's blood and all that. He would turn into like a giant like avatar of himself and make a bunch of like sand clone. I don't know. That whole fight was like a really cool experience overall with the location and the different types of things that you had to do to fight him. You mainly had to use the shotgun, if I remember correctly. Yeah, you did. But how you guys feel about it?
Um, I'll be honest, I don't really think about that fight too much. I definitely remember enjoying it, but like it was kind of one of those things where like, yeah, I remember Mr. Freeze the most because of just how strong of a fight that is. But now that you're like talking about it, it's like, yeah, I do remember really enjoying the Ra's al Ghul fight.
One thing that was brand new to this series, added
Yeah.
by City, was oh, you want to go, Jet? I bet.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, they did really have that like desert atmosphere pretty well, because it just felt very different. Like, oh, how did you end up in this new area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that City added that was brand new was side quests. And the way that it was handled was pretty much that there will be a villain. It will be dedicated to a villain, so Psychos will be like connected to like Hush or whoever the Riddler, and it will just be connected to them and tied to them. And I feel like it was done really well in the sense where these guys weren't really the main focus of the story, but they had enough story to themselves that made them justifiable, and they were all optional too. Did you guys have
Yeah,
any highlights from it, or did you guys not really do it?
I definitely did them. It's just like to me, it's a little I do remember Bane. I think there was one with
Yeah, there
Bane.
was
You
one
did
for
a
me.
side quest with him. Yeah, because I'm a Bane fanboy, so I had to do the Bane one. And like at the end, where it's like, I'm still gonna kill you. It's just like Yeah, I guess I kind of had that coming if we're expecting to trust Bane, but yeah, I guess overall, like the side quests, I don't really think about them as much for City. Uh, I mean, even then, I don't think about them that much for Night. Like they are definitely like it is a good way to utilize kind of like the rogues gallery that isn't involved in the main quest, but it's just not something I like go out of my way and think about. Like, oh yeah, I love the side quests in this game.
How about you, Jet?
Yeah, so I sadly didn't do any of the side quests in this game, but yeah, like, but they do seem cool if it's like dealing with the bosses. Like one of them I read, I think there was one with the Mad Hatter.
Yeah, there is. That one was really cool.
Mm. Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that one. That one was fucking sick.
So what ends up
That
happening with that side quest is that you get pretty much get invited to a tea party, but what ends up happening, that Batman gets knocked out. But when he wakes up, like he's like this crazy twisted wonderland. I think you're on like a falling clock, and you have like this scary bunny mask on your face,
yeah,
and
it
that's
kind
how
of
the whole thing
reminds me of
starts off.
Court of Owls.
Very, very similar to that.
oh yeah.
And another
Um,
one, I don't
hey,
know
yeah.
too much about this one. I've heard about this one, the Calendar Man one.
Okay, so Calendar Man is a really interesting. It wasn't a side quest. So Calendar Man, he's in the church, and he just sits at the basement of the church. It's like a jail cell, then he's down there. And the cool thing about Calendar Man that you talk to him normally, he'll just say whatever. But if you go to him on holidays, he'll start telling you different things. So when you have to change like your in-game calendar to specific days.
So
The really
stupid.
interesting thing though is that if you change the day to the founding of Rocksteady, and you go to Calendar Man, he'll turn around and say that he was there at the beginning, but he'll be there at your end.
Wait,
And there's a lot
is
of
this
like hints toward this. This is legit.
wait, is this
You
like
think
your
Dark would lie?
is this like your in-game like clock or whatever? Like on like your
Yeah,
on
like
like your console?
yeah, on your console. Yeah, you on your console you have to go to like the system settings and change the date
Yeah, this
to
is
like
like
different
Animal Crossing.
holidays or yeah, like that pretty much. But he would say something along the lines like, "I was there at the beginning, I will be there at the end." And there's a lot of cryptic hints that the end is coming because this was planned to be a trilogy. But if you go play Night at the very end of the game, Calendar Man is there.
Oh, is he?
He is there. If you
Where?
watch the
Oh my
final
god.
cutscene of the mansion blowing up, he is there. You can rewatch it now as we're talking about it. He is there, and there's like a double entendre because you had to go there on Rocksteady's date. They were also talking about them themselves, like they were there at the beginning. They're gonna see you to the end. I thought that was really cool.
I just can't get over the idea of a character called Calendar Man.
Yeah, he's got like one of the best. There's also like a guy called Condiment Man. We don't talk about him, but yeah.
What about
Two,
Big Wheel? Or is that Spider Man? I forget.
I forgot. Two of my favorite side quests though was Azrael and Hush. So Hush, just to get him out the way, because he was pretty quick. They're uh, along the city of city. You would find these people without faces, and it'd be like a murder mystery. So you have to start investigating the bodies and see what happened. Eventually, people would start telling you that Bruce Wayne murdered all these people, and Batman would be like, "That's not possible because I'm Bruce Wayne." And even Oracle, Batgirl, 'cause they're talking to you, she'll start doubting you, and be like, "Hey, you were like, you don't really know what's going on. Stuff's pretty crazy. You know what happened with the Scarecrow toxin before, like how crazy shit happens. Is it possible you were killing these people?" And Batman's like, "No, it's not possible whatsoever." Eventually, you fall into a trap where the door gets locked, and you come across Hush, and his face is all wrapped up and everything. And then he slowly starts unraveling the wraps on his face, and he pretty much took different pieces of people's faces and made his face into Bruce Wayne, as he wants to get revenge on them. That
I
whole sequence was like cool as shit.
Yeah, I love Hush because he is literally just Bruce Wayne's biggest hater. It's
Literally.
like literally the haters preying on my downfall, the character.
And then
Because
oh
he
yeah,
doesn't even have beef with Batman. He has beef with Bruce Wayne.
yeah.
So it's one of the funniest characters to me. It's just like, bro, what is your beef?
My second favorite one was Azrael. So Azrael is just watching you throughout the game. At the very beginning of the game, where Bruce Wayne gets captured and you go outside, he's watching you on top of one of the buildings. If you look straight up, he's gonna be standing there. After Joker does the blood transfusion, he's standing there on top of the Ferris wheel, and you find him standing in various different locations. And what will happen if you go interact with him? Like you can throw a battering at him, and he'll catch it. and just
That is
stares at
so
you.
sick.
But if you go interact with him, he'll draw something on the floor and then vanish. So what you would have to do is that you have to go interact with all these symbols that he makes, and it'll create a map of like a final location. And you go to the final location, and he'll roll up on you, and he's like, "The end of days are coming, Batman. Gotham's gonna burn." He's like saying his prophesies that Gotham's going to burn, and he hints that Batman's going to die, and then he
Oh
vanishes, and that was it.
well, damn. I mean, he was kind of right.
He was kind of right. He kind of works in metaphors, but you know. In terms of other side quests, there was the Riddler in this game. The Riddler would kidnap hostages, and you will have to collect multiple Riddler trophies to unlock like the next hostage, and then he'll hit you with like a puzzle room, and you have to solve an actual riddle on the spot. And if you fail, they would die.
This is why. This is one of the two reasons I didn't go for it. Because listen, I'll be honest. I'm a Riddler fanatic. He's one of my favorite Batman villains. It's right up there with Bane and Joker. But like in this game, I'm like, I am not solving fucking riddles. I cannot solve riddles. I'm too stupid for this. So every time I would do one of those, I just looked it up because I'm like, I'm too dumb for this. I can't figure this out. And eventually, it's just led to me where I'm like, I don't want to go for the Riddler trophies because there's just way too fucking many. It was a frustrating thing because it's like our Asylum Riddler trophies work because it was just a smaller area, but like with City, it is kind of just like it reminds me of the feathers in Assassin's Creed, where it's like collect 100 feathers, and I'm like, come on, man, I got better things to do than collect 100 feathers. And like there were Riddler puzzles, and like yeah, they were cool, but like I felt like they were a lot less interesting than they were in Asylum. Maybe that's just like a weird me thing, but yeah, I could never go for all the Riddler trophies. I got tired of just even doing a couple of them.
Yeah, this was the one I collected all the Riddler trophies in. They added a lot more environmental puzzles where like you have to glide a specific way and do different things like that.
Yeah, I hated the AR challenges. I think they were. Oh my god, those are the worst for me. I don't know why. It's just like the way Batman feels. It doesn't feel like it's a precise thing to just go through little bat rings, and I'm like, oh come on, guys, what are we doing here?
How about you, Jet? You collected all the Riddler trophies in this one?
No, I didn't collect them in any of them. I've just
It's
played
kind of
them
balanced.
for yeah, just for the main story and just to feel like Batman who beats villains up and not collecting these trophies. But I did find it funny. Like I think for like the first one where you kind of have to collect it, it's like if you can't figure it out for a while, the Riddler will like start getting annoyed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
So
you did say something funny there. It's like I want to feel like Batman, trying to like to not collect these stupid trophies. It's like it is kind of a silly thing. The idea of just like the whole world is dying, and Batman's like, oh, I gotta collect the Riddler trophy.
so in this game, which is I want to point this out, if you were to collect 80% of all the Riddler trophies, I forgot the exact number of how many there is, but if you only collect like 80 or so percent, you would be able to go take down the Riddler himself. And he is hidden in this very weird corner of the city in a very like crappy little dungeon hole. And taking him down yourself was very satisfying, but some of those trophies were a pain in the ass to do. We'll get back to the 80% later. But yeah, you didn't have
Oh
to
yeah,
collect all the Riddler trophies for this guy. Some of the other ones, there was Deadshot, where Deadshot was just killing people, and you just had to stop him. There was Victor Zaz, which was a guy from Asylum, who likes chopping people up,
yeah.
and he had hostages. So he'll ring a random telephone, and Batman would pick it up, and you had like to trace the call. And I think there was like one other one, but it was like it's okay, whatever. But yeah, they did add a side quest here the first time.
Yeah, now that you're like saying all of them, I definitely remember doing more than like I thought I did. Like I definitely did Victor Zaz. I definitely did not Riddler. Definitely did not do the Riddler. But like I did it more than I remember doing. It's just like one of those things where you start jogging my memory. It's like, oh yeah, I remember doing Victor Zaz. I remember doing these villains. I guess they just didn't stick out to me the same way like I was hoping they would. Maybe that's just me having horrible memory. I don't know. Take it as you will.
Another thing that this game did, it had a lot of environmental storytelling. The things they don't directly tell you, they kind of just show you, and you kind of have to piece it together. So at the very beginning of the game, you have to go to the church because the Joker tried to shoot a Catwoman. So you go to the church, and immediately Harley Quinn just starts cartwheeling at you, and Batman kind of like grabs her leg and flings her. So
That's
keep
one of
that in
my
mind.
favorite moments.
Like he flings her in the ground pretty hard. So keep that in mind. Later on, you go to the amusement mill, and you meet up with, and in that room, right, there's gonna be a bunch of pregnancy tests on the floor. and they're all positive. So keep that in mind for later too. Then you play through the game, the Joker twist happens, and the Joker dies. Then at the credits start rolling, and you hear Harley Quinn singing a lullaby, and you're like, why is she singing a lullaby? She was singing it because she was pregnant with a child, and she was pretty much
Yeah.
trying to tell how she's gonna kill Batman. And then this directly leads into Harley Quinn's Revenge, which was a story expansion. It was like 4 to 5 hours long, if that, and you got to play as Robin. And it took place after the game, and Harley Quinn took over the city, and you would go in there, and she was mourning. But another thing is that if you were to go back to that room with the baby things before, all the pregnancy tests now are negative. And
Listen,
she
we
has
don't. I don't like this theory.
no, it's not a theory.
Batman
This is
doesn't
like
kill.
he didn't kill. He didn't know that. And she has I was about to say Scarecrow. Scarface. Was it Scarface? What the fuck is that doll's name? The gangster doll dude that the ventriloquist
Scarface.
uses.
Yeah, you're
I'm
right.
gonna call him Scarface. I'm not sure. That's him or
No,
not.
it is Scarface. I'm
She
pretty
dresses
sure.
him up as the Joker, like a baby Joker. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it's another one of those things where it's like I would have done that DLC, but you say, oh, you play as Robin. I'm
You
like,
get to play
oh,
as
well, I
Robin
want to
for a
be
bit.
Batman. It's
So
like I don't hate. I like Robin. It's just like, yeah, I like Batman more.
the reason why Robin is involved is because Batman goes in, and after Joker's death, he's kind of like shaking up. He doesn't talk to anybody. So Batman went in, and then he gets captured. And then Batgirl's like, okay, Robin, you gotta go in. And then Robin goes in. And that's why you get to play them for a bit.
Nah,
I'm trying to think of anything else. I want to cover like all the bases of City before we move on tonight.
Oh yeah.
I-
Sorry. I was gonna say, if I might add, the part I didn't like about this game, I don't know why. I thought the boss fight at the end was underwhelming. I don't know. It didn't feel
I agree.
satisfying to defeat Clayface. I'm like, all right, and then you defeat him. It's like, oh, that's it. That's all it was.
yeah, Clayface is one of those villains where it's like, oh, you're the final boss, huh? Like he just doesn't feel like a Batman villain willing to be a. He doesn't feel like a main Batman villain, like Arkham Knight, which we'll talk about.
I
the
feel like
villain
they
in
should
that
have changed the race fight with because race lines up with that whole like scenario how that plays out. They should have changed race of Clayface, but the Clayface twist was really cool, and you can actually figure it out early if you use detective vision because when you scan the Joker's body, that's all healed. There's no bones or nothing. So you're like, wait a minute, the fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, that boss fight was really simplistic. I mean, you get to use a katana, which is pretty cool. But outside of that,
Yeah, I mean, real quick, do you have any thoughts on Talia al Ghul?
I thought she was implemented really well.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
agree.
So for people who don't know, Talia is Batman. It's a big love interest for Batman, and she does have his child with Damian in the comics. So they have a lot of history there, and the game shows that really well. Although in the Arkham universe, he's very much aligned with Catwoman in this one, but they still had that there. And that whole storyline with the Ra's al Ghul's and how Ra's wanted him to become the successor and kill him, I feel like Paul Dini handled that really well.
Yeah, it's definitely she's one of those like interesting characters where, like you said, a love interest to Batman. I feel like just loving a love interest to Batman has always got to be like so fascinating. Where it's like, yeah, you deserve to have my boy. Like I'm like a strict father when it comes to Batman. It's like I need someone who's actually willing to take care of my Batman, and I feel like Talia al Ghul is definitely one of those more interesting love interests. Yeah, I always saw like I obviously love Catwoman just probably a bit more, but like even then, like Talia works as like kind of this foil, and her death scene at the end, really like showing how much it actually does affect Batman, really adds to her character.
Something really interesting. This Killer Croc is not in this game, except for a little Easter egg. When you go to the sewers, there'll be a random button that's out of the way, like it's just sitting there. You can't reach it, so you have to use the remote control battering to hit it, and then Killer Croc will bust through the wall. But there's a gate, so he's just on the gate. But he smells Batman, and I'm pretty sure this is after Hugo Strange dies. So it's after the tower blows up, right before the ending. And the first thing he says is like, "I smell the stench of death on you." And Batman's just staring at him like, "What the fuck?"
Probably because he's just not used to hearing it, smelling the stench of death on Batman, because Batman's
Batman
not.
doesn't kill,
Yeah, because he's real as fuck for that.
even though he takes car doors and slams them on people's necks. But
Yeah, I mean, like you're gonna like need a lot of health insurance to be able to survive a Batman assault unscathed. But he doesn't kill, so that's something.
That was pretty cool. Before we start wrapping this up, like Asylum, they did tease the next game, and people did find this one themselves this time. So in Asylum, Scarecrow got jumped by Killer Croc. He got jumped by Killer Croc and got pretty badly torn up. But at the end credit scene, you see that Scarecrow survived. So if you were to go to the bridge in this game, you would find Scarecrow's mask up there. But if you were to look directly underneath the bridge, there's a boat. What the game doesn't tell you is that if you were to go in the boat and whip out that gadget that lets you decrypt stuff, like the open secret doors, you have
Mhm.
to set it at a specific location. The game doesn't like prompt you or anything, but eventually you will pick up that there's a hidden door there, and I think this code for it is City of Fear. And when you go in, you find out that Scarecrow is making a comeback.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about Scarecrow later, but like, it's one of those cool things I love when they do cool shit like that of like teasing the new game in the old game.
There is also when you go to I forgot what it's called, but there's a device that lets you listen to different frequencies, so you can like pick up where people are. When you go to specific locations, there's Morse code, not Morse code, but there's random numbers being told. If you were to write them down and translate the numbers to like either binary or something, you find out that it's Scarecrow writing, "I have returned. I'm gonna get revenge." City of Fear, some nonsense, yada yada yada, stuff like that. Yeah. Any final
Interesting.
thoughts on City, guys?
I mean, to me, like, I think from an objective standpoint, I would say City is the best one. It is just bigger, better in so many ways from Asylum. It very much feels like one of those like perfect sequel situations. But just from a personal standpoint, like that, yeah, and Titan Compact design from Asylum really adds to my personal love of that game. That Metroidvania design, that getting gadgets slowly as you go, which you do get in City, but I feel like it's um, much less of a deal in City versus Asylum, and I feel like that smaller world allowed me to really have test out and really utilize Batman's abilities to their fullest extent versus in City where I just wasn't a big fan of that open world. I think there was a lot of positives to it, but I also think there was a lot of negatives to it. And despite all that, like I do still love City. Like these are both like some of the best superhero games of all time, so it's really hard for me to complain that much about them. But yeah, overall, like if I had to like rate it, like City is still a 9 out of 10. Like they are both 9 out of 10 video games.
How about you, Chet? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that despite still really liking City and the environments and like even some of the best moments in like in the Arkham franchise, I think I still like Asylum just slightly more, just because of the settings. But City still had really good settings. Like I still really like that beginning where you're straight up just fighting in the Arkham prison. I thought that was a really cool fight sequence.
I agree. What would you rate it on a scale from like 1 to 10?
Oh yeah, if I were to rate it, I think this would be probably 8.5, like still really close to Asylum.
That's fair. I give this game a straight 10 out of 10. This to me is one of the few masterpiece games out there.
I want to point out he barely had any notes about like anything in regards to like all the specific shit he said. He just knows this stuff. He just remembers like fucking calendar man. If you go on the date with the Rocksteady founding, it's like, bro, I don't know that stuff. I just remembered, yo, Mr. Freeze. So yeah, I could tell Dark really likes this game.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the third and final Rocksteady title. The-
Wait. Before we get there, we should probably do Origins.
Okay,
Just
we
real
can
quick.
cover Origins first. So these two haven't played it, so I'll do a quick little brief description of Origins. So Origins was done by Rocksteady Montreal.
No,
It
no,
was
WB Montreal.
oh WB, yeah, WB, my bad. WB Montreal. Um, it was Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill were not inside this game, even though both Batman and the Joker are present in this game. It was instead done by Roger Craig Smith, and I'm pretty sure the Joker was Troy Baker, and they both did
Okay,
a
okay.
really good job.
Okay. Listen. Roger Craig Smith does a great job as Batman. I agree with you there. Troy Baker. I mean, nothing against Troy, but like it very
It's a
much felt
weird
like
pick.
It felt like Joker from Wish. Like I was not a big fan of his performance as Joker. Just in like a lot of the promotional stuff I saw of the game, where I'm like, oh, Man, they really got Troy Baker on this one, huh?
So that wasn't my issue with Asylum. So Asylum is not Asylum. Origins is a prequel. My issue with this game is that they promoted Black Mask, who's gonna be the main villain, and it was really cool. It was Black Mask. We don't really see him that often. Black Mask takes off his masks in this game, and it's the fucking Joker. I'm like, what the fuck?
So stupid. That's the dumb. Like that was the one thing I knew, and I'm like, what? We've had enough of the Joker. We got a lot of Joker stuff. Come on, guys.
What else? Going back into the story, this game had the most boss fights, and it had some of the best boss fights. You get to fight Deathstroke, and Deathstroke was playable in this game, and that was an incredible fight. You had
Man.
the Electrocutioner, which is probably the funniest fight I've ever seen. So you walk into this arena, and the Electrocutioner was like a villain nobody heard of before. He has this big, shocking gauntlet in this big arena. They're hyping it up. And he's talking about how he's gonna kill Batman, bring him back to life, and kill him again. And then the fight starts, and you hit one button, and Batman just kicks him in the face, and the fight's over.
I mean,
Yeah, it was a fight.
he tried.
This game it utilized half of City's map, but then like the other half was completely new. It had Killer Croc who was a boss fight in the beginning. Bane was a big villain in this. This was the super smart Bane from the comics. So Bane normally he's like he's a menace. And in this game he was on Batman's ass. He found out who Batman was. He found or as soon as he found out he went to the Batcave, wrecked it, nearly killed Alfred. He was fucking everything up.
Oh,
He
now
was
you
only
know you
working
fucked
with
up
the
if you
Joker.
do that.
He was only working with the Joker just to get to Batman. There was a scene where, you know how Jack mentioned it before with Twilight Batman. There was that elevator scene where he was like hiding on top of like the elevator. He did. Batman tried that in this, and Bane just stuck his hand up in the elevator and slammed. Like Bane was not fucking around in this thing.
I mean,
And even the
Yeah.
Joker, so he killed a lot
that's
of people.
smart, man.
So this took place on Christmas Eve, I believe, and the whole premise was that Black Mask, aka Joker, put a hit on Batman. Whoever got to kill Batman got this crazy bounty. So all these people came out. You had Firefly, you had Deathstroke, Bane, Killer Croc, and that's what the premise of it. The Joker, this was like their first interaction, one of the first interactions with Batman. When that he had like this penthouse, he had everybody up there. When he found out what happened to the electrocution, he just kicked them off a building. The Joker, he kills them off a building and he straight up kills them. Then he blows up in like a fucking city block just because. Joker was just a menace in this.
It,
The combat was
yeah,
like
go ahead.
it was okay. They added the electrocution gloves, which is very similar to Miles Morales, where you just have shock powers. You just have like a little boost. That's what it was, pretty much. The gliding was really stiff, but besides that, it was a good game. It did have a story DLC called Cold Heart, where it was Mr. Freeze and Batman got like a wicked winter suit and some other things. But besides that, it was okay. It had a fast travel system, even though they didn't really need it. We used the Batwing, even though it would take you longer with the Batwing than just go on foot. But yeah, that's Arkham Origins. If you have guys, I want to talk about that for a bit more.
I it is so frustrating that this is the game with the fight with Deathstroke, where it's like that is easily one of my favorite characters in general in DC. And I mean, we'll talk about how he's utilized in Night. Don't worry, but the way he is in like just like oh man, there's this really awesome fight with Deathstroke in Origins. It's like man, I wish I could play it. Like it is a weird thing where they just kind of ignore Origins' existence. It's always the Rocksteady trilogy, the Rocksteady trilogy. It's like Origins is right there. Like, why don't you
Origins is
port
really
that
good.
one
It gets a
too?
lot of hate. It was really good. The game. I wouldn't rate it as high as the Rocks. I rate it higher than Knight, to be honest. There's the one thing that was they really emphasized with Batman and Origins was his detective, like his detective side. So there would be crime scenes, and you would go in and you would recreate the crime scene. So like, you would see how things happen with some insane bat technology. I forgot the explanation. Stuff that made no sense, but it was really cool.
It's one of the coolest things. It's like done once in Night.
But yeah, I really did like playing as Deathstroke, though. He was really fun to play as. And now, my friends, we're on to
Oh
the
boy.
infamous finale, the Arkham trilogy, Arkham Knight. So getting into this game,
It's,
before we even get into this game, let's talk about the promotion leading up to this. The game, till this day, is one of the best looking games of all time. The art direction is incredible. So they were showing the art direction, and they had two standouts. They were like, guys, A lot of people asked for it. We're adding the Batmobile to the game. They
Yay!
purposely did not show much of the
Let's
Batmobile.
go.
People were hyped. And then they came out and they showed this new villain called the Arkham Knight, who had like this metallic. He looked like a knight, fully metallic, and in the gameplay footage,
Brand
he
new
was
character.
beating Batman's ass. And the main thing that they emphasized, guys, this is a brand new character to the mythos. People were hyped.
You're
He
gonna
wasn't the
find
main
out his
villain.
identity.
He wasn't the main villain. Scarecrow was the main villain. Arkham Knight was like, he was the like standout of it. And that was the launch. Then the game comes out, and on PC it was a dumpster fire.
Oh yeah.
But on consoles it was fine, and they later fixed the PC port. But yeah, let's. How about you? Wolf? You go first. Of Arkham Knight.
Okay, so Arkham Knight's a funny game. So yeah, I did allude to it earlier. I played it for the first time this month. You know, just because I was in that Batman mood, and this was the Rocksteady game I never played. I to me, Arkham Knight isn't a bad game like a lot of people say. Um, I do hear some people who think it's the best Batman game, and to that I say you're fucking insane. But it's not a bad game. It's not even like a like disappointing game to me. Like I feel like there's a lot of aspects of it that are severely flawed. It is to me an extremely strong game with supreme lows, some of the lowest
We
lows
have
in
some of the highest highs
gaming.
and some of the lowest lows of the session.
100%. And it's so frustrating because there are parts of this game where I'm like, this is like top tier Batman in general, not just like Batman video game, just Batman in general. But then it's like the Bat Tank, which we'll discuss about the Bat Tank. And also just Scarecrow as the main villain and weird situations like the identity of the Arkham Knight, where it's literally the most obvious shit on planet Earth. It's a really frustrating aspect of the entire game where you think, to me, like if they really just went back and like said, okay, fuck the Bat Tank, let's change some things around story wise, this would easily be my favorite Arkham game. It is like I said earlier with City. I love traversing the map in night so much more. I love doing the bat grapple with the massive zipline boost. There is this really cool feeling of just swerving around with the Batmobile where you're just driving as recklessly as possible. It is an extremely badass feeling of doing all that, but it's also just like, well, the Bat Tank, which I know, like we keep harping on the Bat Tank. People have been harping on the Bat Tank ever since this game came out, but like, there's a reason to harp on this thing. But yeah, just in general, like I still really love the game. I still have I had a lot of fun doing it. Like I basically did everything except Riddler trophies, which we'll get into. But in it is definitely like one of the weaker. It's the weakest of the trilogy for sure.
You pointed out the story before we get to Jet, but I know you want to talk about this too. Paul Dini did not work on this game.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's why Paul Dini did not. I don't know why. I don't know the story behind this. The explanation might be out there. He did not work on this game.
Is he getting old
It
at this time?
shows. I mean, I thought he was already old. I don't know.
But I mean, like, was he retired around this time? Or
I don't know. I don't know the story behind it. I just know that he was not part of this game, and it clearly shows. But yes, yeah. How do you feel about this game?
All right, so um, I I got halfway through this game and I didn't finish the rest of it. So I loved Asylum, loved City, and halfway through Night, I was like, all right, awesome. We're finally in this like spaceship thing. This is cool. I get to be stealth Batman. I get to beat up people, and then I did that whole section. I'm like, cool. I hope there's more of this stuff. No, 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 no. You're back in the fucking tank. And at a certain point, I got annoyed at like how the back and forth was between Tank and Batman, and then yeah, it was just it was basically the Tank dragging on for too long that annoyed me to a point of like I just lost my patience with this game, and I watched like some of the rest of the story on YouTube on like how it works. And so here's the funny thing on how I kind of got spoiled in like the very beginning of this game, where like on who the main villain is, because because I have the version with the DLC, so like you can change the alternate costumes like Batman, uh, Nightwing, and like Robin, and also the villain. and the alternate costume is of the Red Hood, and I watched that movie, Batman Under the Red Hood. Such a beautiful film. But it's like, shit, I already know who this is. Yeah.
You made the rookie mistake of experiencing Red Hood.
The story for this game starts out so strong. Like, Scarecrow makes a threat. You actually played through it, so you play as a civilian, and you go to like a bar at night, and you just go and try to get some food. And I think you're playing as a cop. Yeah, you're playing as a cop, and they're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
there's a guy smoking in the back," and you go to the back, and it turns out he whips out some fear toxin, and things just go to hell. He starts shooting people, and it's just chaos. And then it starts panning out how like the city's getting engulfed in flames. Scarecrow takes over a billboard and he's like, I'm gonna take over Gotham in the next 24 hours, so you best evacuate now. And everything's evacuating. The villains take over the whole city. The city is huge in this, so you're no longer confined to like a little, because Arkham City was like a prison. This is Gotham. You're out in Gotham. And then it pans out. The art direction is beautiful. Then it shows Batman is standing up top, and it just puts you right into the game. Then you go beat some people up. The combat feels they perfected it at this point. There was nothing more that they could possibly add, in my opinion. And then there's a point where you have to go save a police officer, and the officer is like, "What are you gonna do now? There's so many." Like, I'm gonna even the odds, and they're hyping this moment up. And you press the button,
So
and the Batmobile rolls up, and Batman does this cool entrance and everything. And you had the Batmobile, which then transforms into a tank.
like in theory, the idea of the Batmobile turning into a tank, like if you put that on paper, it's like that sounds so fucking cool.
I mean,
Like
it
I'm
does
a
happen. In the
in,
comics, it's called the Tumbler. That's what it is. The one from the Nolan trilogy. That's what it is. Tank.
yeah, of
In
course.
the Dark Knight Returns, it's called the Tumbler, and it is a tank. It just doesn't have a freaking cannon on it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. There's two things about the tank. One, thematically, I just feel like it doesn't make sense for Batman's character to have a tank because like his whole thing is not killing, and it's like, oh well, these are riot control guns. Shut up! Like no, I'm killing people. I
Look,
ran
the
over
size
that
of these
guy.
bullets is like the size of humans.
It's ridiculous. It's just like that whole thing is really unrealistic and kind of dumb. But I, I just in general like the Batmobile, I actually think is really good. I think driving around in the Batmobile, doing stunts with it, they really love to overutilize it sometimes. But like, it is one of those things where like it feels good to drive around. Like it's pretty decent driving controls. But then they ask you to use the tank, and like the first time, it's like okay, this is cool, I guess. But then it's the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and like 20th time, I'm like, oh my god, I am done with this fucking tank. I have used this half a million times, and I'm barely like a third of the way in this game. It's just in general, the tank feels like such an oversight of where's the fun? Where's the enjoyment? I feel like you added the bat tank both as a like just for marketing and because people asked you to. But even then, people didn't ask for the bat tank. People asked for the
The Batmobile.
Batmobile. So it's like, why is there? Who invited this clown? Like it feels like you're at a party. You invite that one friend you're really excited to see again, and you see him, and he brings the other friend that you're like, oh, I never liked that guy. And it's like, oh, the Batmobile, great to you brought Bat Tank. Hey man, nice to meet you. It's just all weird and shit. Like it's an awkward situation. I know that analogy went everywhere at once, but still, it fits because the Bat Tank. Nobody likes this thing. I have not met a single person who enjoys the Bat Tank, which is crazy to me. That Rocksteady, in their time making the game, no one in the studio was like, "Hey guys, maybe we should just cut this thing. It's not working." I feel like it was just we've gone too far. We might as well just finish it.
I think the point where it went too far, where there was stealth tank sections.
I could not believe that.
Stealth tank section.
Yeah,
How does that make sense?
That is
that Rose point.
I just think to me that like I know it sounds like we're harping on it. It's like, oh well, what about the rest of the game? It's like the problem is that like half the game you're spent in this tank. If it was just a minority of the game, like I'd say like 10-20%, I'd be like fine with it. It's like, it's a weird thing, but like at least it's not the majority. But there were so many moments, like to me, like there's like one sequence that showed how much I dislike the tank and like just the Batmobile's utilization. It's you go through Ace Chemicals and you're going through like this underground bunker and you're literally babysitting the tank. It's like you're walking around as Batman being awesome and it's like, oh, now you have to open the door for the tank. Okay, do a bat tank puzzle. And the puzzles aren't even like stressful or interesting. It's just You see the winch it down. You break down a wall, hit the target. It's like, what the fuck is this baby shit? Like, I'm fucking Batman. Why am I in a tank?
Yeah. I have a question for you guys, but like, because this was one scene I thought it was a really cool utilization was where you do this like detective work of like the scene of the crash, right? Like where you get to follow the tracks and everything, and like you get to see
Yes.
Batman's like montage. Was that used again? Because when I was playing, I didn't see that used again.
No,
I
that
thought,
was the only time in the main game. I don't know, maybe in the DLC, but like I that's the only
Did they
time in
use
the game.
no, there is one side quest that uses it, but it was not with the bad thing. And they only did it like one extra other time, and that was it. It was bad. But going on with the story, right? So you save some guards and you find out that Scarecrow, he's by himself, which you're like, what the fuck? How does this work? But there's like guards everywhere. But you find out that he has a militia with that's working by the Arkham Knight. And the Arkham Knight, the two of them working together just because the Arkham Knight just wants to fuck up Batman. And you're like, okay, damn. And you have this really cool scene where the Arkham Knight blows up a bridge and he's like in a helicopter with like missiles and stuff, and Batman is on his feet staring him down. I'm like, this shit is hype as fuck. And then
hmm
he traps Batman, and you get to hear the Arkham Knight. Like he comes down himself. You start hearing him. As soon as he spoke, I knew who he was. He comes
It's
out.
so
He is so
obvious.
like if you know anything about Batman's mythos, you know who this guy is right away. He starts speaking. He's super hot headed. He's angry. He's like pissed off, and then he starts pointing out the flaws in Batman's suit. I'm like, there is no way they did this.
it, for people who don't know, it's Red Hood or Jason Todd, and it's like one of those things where like I didn't remember Jason Todd specifically, but I'm like, this is Red Hood, isn't it? This is effectively like their equivalent of Red Hood. And when it was revealed, I'm like, ah, yeah, there he is. It's just to me, it's so obvious. And one of my favorite things of all time is like people figured out it was Red Hood or Jason Todd before the game came out. And Rocksteady was like, no, this is a new character. What are you talking
They're
about?
like, guys,
It's
it's a
crazy.
brand new character. Relax yourself. It's not Red Hood. It was Red Hood.
It was Red Hood. It's like I don't know. It's just so funny to me that they thought they could get away with like just gaslighting everyone. It's like, no, we're gonna play the game.
There was some really cool moments of the story, like a scarecrow. Well, for starters, I don't know if this like it kind of worked. It kind of didn't. Some of the fear talks, not the some of Joker's blood is still left in Batman's bloodstream because of what happened in the city. So because of that, Batman would occasionally see hallucinations of the Joker.
Yes, this is one of my favorite
And this
things.
is how they
same.
implemented the Joker into this game, even though he was dead. Well, Joker was kind of jump scared the shit out of you at random times. So he would
It
pop
is.
up occasionally.
It's kind of perfect that like Batman's biggest fear in a way is the Joker, or at least like just
Becoming
this
the Joker.
idea. Yeah, like Beach slowly turning himself into the Joker as the game goes on. And to me, like one of my favorite things, there was that really funny sequence where you basically play as Joker in like an FPS mode near the
So
end.
he's
I thought
killing
that was
everybody.
it was just like goofy as hell. But like one of my favorite moments was like Batman turned his fear of the Joker against him and just said, "Oh, Joker, your biggest fear is being forgotten." And it's like that is like just a genius way of showcasing like the Joker's biggest fear in life is just not leaving a legacy. He died for nothing. And Batman basically stowing him away, kicking him out, and saying, "You are not worthy to even sit in my mind anymore. You're not interested. You're nothing to me." Basically, it's just like a perfect way of showcasing just Batman's mental fortitude is unlike any other character in even DC. Just he has a mental will stronger than most.
Yeah, a big plot point of the game was that there was so what in City we didn't really cover it fully, but Joker was dying from the Hayden formula. So what he did, he gave Batman some, so that Batman he'd be dying too. But he also sent it out to hospitals in the city. In night, you find the remaining people who had it, and you have them to the Batcave, or the pseudo Batcave, and you're
Yeah.
trying to find a cure, and you have them like quarantine. Then Harley Quinn rolls up, and she starts having this weird thing where she starts falling in love with these people infected with the Joker, but she thinks they're the Joker. And then this is when, if you didn't figure out at this point, the game starts giving you flashbacks of Jason Todd. I want to say this was like very brutal. Like the Joker branded him in this game. They didn't do this in the original, like in the original story. Like, he did not get branded, but Joker branded him. He beat the ever living shit out of him. And then he was trapped inside of a abandoned wing in Arkham Asylum, where the Joker would occasionally let other villains take turns at just beating up Jason.
Yeah,
which
and
is
like you definitely feel for him at that moment, but it is also one of those things where it's like when it is revealed that Arkham Knight was Jason Todd, and I talk to Jason Todd again, I'm like, I don't like this guy. He's really is just like the most annoying Robin. I definitely prefer the other two Robins much more over Jason Todd. But even then, like it does definitely hit like showcasing just the mental battle that Jason Todd endured and that he was still able to like make it out of it.
Yeah, so another thing unique to this game was that they added the tag team takedowns. So in this game, you would be fighting alongside other heroes and side characters. So Catwoman would be with you, or be Tim Drake, Robin, or Nightwing. And it was really cool is that you co-op like little sections with these characters. It would have been cool if it was actual co-op, but they didn't go that far. But it was a little addition that made the game feel fresh. And at this point, after you start getting these flashbacks of what happened to Jason, you start seeing what happened to him. Tim starts pointing out, "Hey, your eyes, like one of your eyes turned green. Why are you acting weird?" Because Batman is slowly losing his sanity throughout the course of the night, and it kind of reaches its peak. What I guess about to reach its peak, where Scarecrow kidnaps Barbara, and he does this really cool thing where he makes it look like she's gonna kill herself because she believes that Jim died or something. And then the Joker walks past as she pulls the trigger, so you can't see it. But
Yeah, it is.
it was really well done the way that they had.
They genuinely did actually make me believe for a second that Barbara died, and like I don't know if I'm just stupid or something, but like I actually kind of felt sad. Where oh man, I really love Barbara, and to see her die like that was pretty brutal. And then you realize it was just the Scarecrow's like fear hallucination or whatever bullshit, and it's like I am a hater of fake out deaths like that. I do think that is a better implementation than most fake out deaths, so I'm not too peeved off about it. But it is still like, man, you really messed with my emotions there, huh, game?
Then Scarecrow gets a little bit ballsy. He nukes the whole city with fear toxin. So he didn't team up with Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy was like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself to save
Poison
everybody. I
Ivy was
don't want the
so awesome
plants
in
to
this
die.
game.
She had a really cool moment. She sacrificed herself. We'll get into this later, but a little plant is all that is left. That little plant will come important later.
Oh, we'll talk about it.
Then pretty much after that, you get a confrontation with the Arkham Knight because he kidnaps Jim. He kidnaps Jim, and you find out that the hallucination of Barbara was fake, that she's still alive. So you go to rescue, and Arkham Knight's there. And you go have your conversation. He takes off the mask. To nobody's surprise is Jason Todd, and he's pissed off.
Yeah,
It
did
felt
you
like
like the boss fight?
the
I
boss fight
was a
was
big.
fine. It was okay.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool. I'm a sucker for like utilizing stealth, taking out his allies, and then making his way to him. I do think actually like attacking him and like sneaking up on him was pretty easy comparatively speaking. But like I'm a sucker for stealth boss fights like that, so I'm always like down for whenever they do stuff like that in games.
I felt like he was conflicted a lot. And even at the end, like when you finish the fight, Batman like he immediately calls out. He's like, "I found Jason," and like he's just gone. He just left. So then after all of that, you finally come with the grand confrontation of Scarecrow, and he gets you into this room. He's like, "Drop all your stuff. I have Commissioner Gordon trapped. Drop all your gear. Go into this van. Don't ask any questions." Batman takes off all his stuff, besides the suit. Then he goes into the van, and he takes you back to Arkham Asylum where it all started in the lobby. And he has you pinned up, and he's gonna unmask you live in front of everybody. And here, this is when Joker fully takes over. See, Batman Bruce's eyes turn green. He plays the Joker, and Batman's biggest fear is just slaughtering everybody. He has a shotgun for whatever reason. He is killing everybody, and then he summons the Batmobile. But it's like a Jokerized Batmobile, but this time all the bullets are lethal, and you're just using it to kill everybody. And then you start seeing how the Joker didn't care that Harley was crying after he died. He just cared that people remembered him. And then you come into this room full of Batman statues, and Batman just jump scares you out of nowhere, and then everything that Wolf mentioned earlier happens.
Yeah,
Then,
just that
yeah,
whole ending sequence. I'm a big fan of it personally. Like that was definitely one of the like highlights of the game was that whole ending sequence. It still didn't sell me on Scarecrow as a villain. I was still very
it
much like,
wasn't
eh.
even Scarecrow that did that. It was Batman was just scared because of the blood. But that was Batman's biggest fear, and since he overcame that, Scarecrow's injecting the fear toxin. At this point, Batman doesn't give two shits. He is not scared of anything. So Batman, with the help of Red Hood, because now he's Red Hood all of a sudden, Red Hood shoots the chains off of Batman's hands. He gets fully unmasked by it. The world knows that he's Bruce Wayne.
Uh-huh.
His chains get shot off. He takes the fear toxin, puts it into Scarecrow, gives him a taste of his own medicine. Batman looks like a demon, which we'll get back to that later on. And then you finish off Scarecrow. You tell Jim to look after everybody, because Jim's part of the family now at this point. And then Batman goes to finish off the night. The finishing off the night involves you getting the rest of the side quests and everything. You wanna
Yeah.
anything you wanna talk about with the story, or is that pretty much it?
I mean, again, I did say like I really do enjoy the story for this game. It is one of the things I like, despite its issues, I just think Scarecrow isn't intimidating enough. To me, Scarecrow always felt like a side villain. So, like, I think his role in Asylum is perfect. Whereas in this game, it's like he's the big bad, and to me, it just he never sold himself as the big bad as much as he does in other Arkham game, or I guess not as much as other Arkham villains have in the past. Despite that, I do overall think he does a fine enough job. And in general, like I do think there's a lot of aspects of the story I fully enjoyed, like that whole sequence of Scarecrow fully taking over the city. Everything in regards to the guy who owns the blimp. I forgot his name.
The blimp?
Yeah. Remember the whole blimp, like that whole sequence of the game. That was easily one of
Oh,
my favorite
I
sequences,
forgot
by
what
the
you're
way. Like,
talking. I forgot his name. I know what you're talking about though.
yeah, but like that billionaire guy, I thought his whole sequence. It just I love the blimps like that because the bat car couldn't get up there, so like I didn't have to deal with it. I could just fuck around as Batman up there. But I guess just again, it's what we were saying all over the place. It's like it's so many highs but so many lows when it comes to this game. And I guess like the story is another case where like I do think it is much more highs, and I don't think the lows are as bad as it comes to like the bat tank and whatnot. But in general, I do think City has a much better storyline. I do actually like this story more than Asylum. I will say that much.
I like Asylums. I think this is the worst city out of all the games, including Origins. How about you, Chet? What do you think? You've been quiet for a bit.
Yeah. So despite not like being in the game, like the amount I played, I still enjoyed my time. And like, the one of the things that strikes me is how glorious this game looks. This looks better than a lot of
Oh my
games
god.
today.
But the art direction in this game is actually insane. I don't
Yeah.
think there's a better looking game besides like The Last of Us or something. Even then, this game went above and beyond for a 2015 game.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
almost 10 years.
Exactly. And like, yeah, and like I'm glad they still kept the same like tropes of Batman and everything. There's one thing that we didn't really touch on, but I like this in almost every Batman game, and that's like when you die and the character that you're fighting comes into the screen
Yes, I
and
Oh
love
says
yeah,
that.
some and says some cheesy dialogue. Like this one was probably my least favorite of them, but like I'm glad it wasn't removed.
it's a really cool feature.
It,
I guess we can talk
it,
about. Oh, you can go.
we were talking about the side stuff because that's definitely something I want to add on.
Yeah, I was talk about the side content and the side villains in this game.
So I love the side quests in this game. I think they were a lot of fun just to screw around
Yeah,
and
this
go
game had the
for it.
strongest, even compared to
Yeah.
City.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Like it's definitely one of those things where I was so much more motivated because like I thought the characters, the side activities themselves were really interesting. Just like I'm a sucker for like Ubisoft map style take over the fort just because it allowed me to like play around with Batman's some more. Of course, there was bat tank sequences. We don't talk about those, but it was another one of those things where I did everything in this game except the Riddler trophies.
I
And
did as
oh
well.
my god, they were so bad in this game. Where I did most of Riddler's stuff, like as hellish as it was, I did everything because it's like I gotta save Catwoman. And then you save Catwoman, and Riddler's like, if you want to fight me in my true form, you're gonna have to collect all my. I'm like, nope, see ya. And just in general, like just the Riddler. This game made me hate the Riddler, which is insane because I said before he is one of my favorite Batman villains. And in this game, he just came across as a prick, basically. Why the fuck am I doing races underground? I am fucking Batman. This is not a Batman game. This is Mario Kart. It's so silly. And the whole time you have to deal with Riddler spamming his dialogue, talking all sorts of shit. And it's this really weird reverb thing where he talks and then like there's an echo thing, and I despise it because It's like, oh, it's a character quirk. It shows it's like a really weird setup. No, it's just fucking annoying. That's all it is. And just in general, like that was easily the worst part to me was just the Riddler stuff. And I only did it for Catwoman, okay, because she's my girl. But I don't know, man. It was a frustrating section of the game just doing Riddler bullshit.
Riddler for me in this game, I hate him with a passion. So I mentioned before in City, you can fight the Riddler if you have 80% of all the Riddler trophies. You need 100% to fully get him in this. My save file is 248% because of New Game Plus. I've done
Right.
everything and I'm only missing like 20 super annoying Riddler challenges on both playthroughs. I'm not doing it. It involves the
You
map.
gotta do it. Come
I'm
on,
not
you
gonna do
gotta
it.
do it.
No, it's too stupid. And the map's way too big to find them all. It's
I
dumb.
mean, listen, I mean, you're that close though. You gotta do it. It's 20.
Maybe one day, but not today. In terms of the other villains, there were some really good ones. There was, there's Deathstroke, which is the Bat Tank
Okay,
Simulator.
okay, I gotta talk about Deathstroke. This is actually what pissed me off. Was fucking doing all that, like the mines and stuff, all that, and then it's like, okay, Deathstroke's like, I will fight you, Batman. Come here. It's like, oh my god, I'm gonna fight Deathstroke, one of my favorite DC characters. Let's get it. And then he shows up in a tank, and I'm like, I can't do it anymore, man. I can't fucking do it. It's the same tank bullshit as when you fought the Arkham Knight in the tank. It's like, what is their obsession with this fucking tank? Nobody liked it. And you're gonna make one of the best Batman, one of the best DC characters fight in a tank. That is not how Deathstroke fights.
It was so stupid. What else? Oh, we had a man bat, which is really cool. He jump scares
Yeah,
you.
that was great.
You would just randomly grapple, he'll jump scare the shit out of you. You get
Wait,
man
okay,
bat.
I didn't get that.
It
I
should
just
happen the first time.
that's
That's
what's
like
I
the
never
start.
got that. I was just like running around the city, and then it was like, Batman, look for the Batman bat. Did you see that? I was like, oh shit, I guess I did. There he is. I guess I'll go for him.
It's pretty funny if you look up clips of everybody getting jump scared by him, because it's so off, like out of left field. There is Professor Pig, which is he's just like a serial killer. You find
Yeah, I wasn't a
his
big fan of
crimes.
that one. I
There's
like the
Nico.
like investigation sections, looking at the dead bodies, but like
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I hated the villain. I'm like, I hate this guy so much. He is so annoying.
There was the continuation of the Hush storyline from City, and I was very underwhelmed.
Oh,
So
really?
I did not like how they ended this. So City, they did it really well, and then in this game, Lucius calls you, which is the Batman. Batman's the guy for all the
Yeah,
tech,
the homie.
and he's like, "Come to Wayne Manor immediately. Some shit's going down." And you find out that Hush, dressed up as Bruce Wayne, now that his face is all healed, but it's been a couple of years, he invades uh Wayne Tower, and he has Lucius at gunpoint. So Batman goes, right? And he has him at gunpoint. He's like, I want to talk to Bruce Wayne. Get him here now. And at this point, Batman, like no, this takes place before Batman gets unmasked. But Batman doesn't really care at this point because he's already having one of those days. So he takes off the mask, and it throws Hush off guard. And then Batman just like slams him down on the table, and that's it. That was I feel like the payoff wasn't worth waiting a whole game for.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I just thought it was like a small mini thing, but I definitely feel like, oh, he just dies or not dies, but like gets taken down that easily.
One of my
I just thought
favorites.
it was a cool moment of like Batman unmasking himself because he's like, ah, fuck it here.
One of my favorites was Penguin because you get to play with Nightwing as you take him down. But this
Yeah,
takes
that
place
was great.
after the story is finished. So everybody knows who it is. And Batman is pretty much saying goodbye to Nightwing here. And he's like, take care of the city and everything. And Nightwing's like, you're not going to let this stop you, obviously, right? You just do nothing. You go back and say back. And Nightwing eventually realizes that he's being dead serious. He's like, okay, I'm not going to let you down. And he just goes off. I felt like that was really cool.
Yeah,
And then
no,
there
that
was a
whole
few others.
yeah, the penguin trucks, so as you said. Definitely it was like a really silly side quest of like kind of tailing the trucks. I'm not a big fan of tailing missions. But like the actual like resolution of like him telling him like, hey, take care of the city was a sweet moment. And also the Firefly quest I thought was actually pretty cool.
That was pretty
Like
cool
just
too.
chasing him across the city, like slowly waiting until the exhaust would burn out. I'm just a sucker for Firefly as a villain. I think he's a fun guy.
In my opinion, the best DLC, like the best side quests, were part of this DLC of the Season of Infamy. I know you didn't play this, but I'm gonna get into spoilers. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I don't care. Go ahead.
So this contained Killer Croc, Mr. Freeze, Ra's al Ghul, and I feel like there's one other. I can't remember what the other one is. Killer Croc, you work with Nightwing, and Killer Croc in this game he's a full blown, he's a gigantic alligator at this point. There is a giant blimp which acts as a prison, and Killer Croc knocked it out of the sky and lands into the water. And you go in there and investigate, and you find all the guards utterly terrified. But you end up finding out that the guards were like mistreating the prisoners and everything, and then that's how he broke out. And you and Nightwing were tag that. Ra's al Ghul is really interesting because it's a continuation of City's story. We found out that Ra's lived after that due to the Lazarus pit, but there's a war now going on. There's the people on Raish's side, and then there's his sister, like his daughter, one of his daughters that wants to break free from the clan to separate everything. You stop it. And it's really cool. You see that whole thing play out. Then there's Mr. Freeze. And Mr. Freeze is a fan favorite of the series, obviously. He had the best one, without a doubt. Nora gets her body gets taken. Mr. Freeze takes the ship and he freezes it to hell. And Batman goes in there. He's like, "Let me help you. Just calm the fuck down. Get this ship under control. I'll help you out." He's like, "Okay." You find Nora, and she comes out. She's no longer frozen. Batman immediately calls Freeze, and she's like, "Oh shit, she's alive now." So the whole thing that Freeze was becoming Freeze for is done. But then you find that Nora, the whole time she was frozen, she knows everything that Freeze was doing. Like she was able to hear him. She knows what he became. She's saddened by it. And Batman finds out that she's still dying. So Freeze was like, let's put you back into the cryo freeze, and I can heal you up, and you'll be fine." He's like, "No, I don't want to do that. I'd rather live the rest of my life with you." So what ends up happening is that Freeze goes onto the boat with her. They get it stabilized. Freeze takes off his mask. Both him and Nora live out the rest of their life, the few like hours that they have together, just like that. And that's how it ends. I was like, holy shit. That was
That
a
is
fantastic
fascinating. Though.
ending.
No, I mean, like I'm a big sucker for Doctor Freeze, so I'm glad to hear about that whole like situation.
You get the continuation of Azrael. As he said, the city was on fire, and Batman got revealed. Batman is technically dead. Then Batman is looking for a replacement for himself. So he starts testing Azrael. But Azrael's court, like his religion, had him. They wanted him to kill Batman. But Batman gives you the choice, and then you get to play as Azrael in the second. He's like, "I'll let you do whatever." You play as Azrael, you get the choice to either attack Batman and become him, or you go against your creed and become a vigilante. If you attack him, Batman breaks the sword, beats your ass, and you go turn into prison. But if you break it, Batman accepts you as like part of his crew, and then you just go off and do your own thing. And that's pretty
Yeah,
much
so
the majority of the side content.
I remember with Azrael, I think I accidentally just like took him in. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess you're in now.
Yeah. Then something really annoying about this game too. You cannot get the true ending unless you collect all the fucking villains. Meaning, if you don't get all the Riddler trophies, you can't get the true ending. Meaning, you have to go watch it on YouTube.
That is so fucking stupid. That's what I had to do, and it's a really awesome true ending. It's just frustrating that it's hidden behind like 247 Riddler trophies. A lot of them require the Bat Tank, which that's fun.
Yeah, so the ending, pretty much all the villains are captured. Batman finished the night. He saved the day. He calls the Batwing, heads back to the manor. Alfred opens the door for him. He walks in. The news is there. Everybody's there. If you pay close attention, Calendar Man is there. Like he said he would be. He will be at Batman's end. They shut the door. The house blows up. And they're like, "This is how it happened. This is how the Batman died." And that was that. It then fast forwards a bit, right? So time has passed. You find out that Tim is marrying Barbara. Jim Gordon is running for mayor. Things are looking up. But there's no more Batman. Then they show this couple in an alleyway getting mugged. Very similar to how Batman's parents were. The lady had pearls. The thug ripped off the pearls. But then you see a figure standing there, and he starts growing taller and taller. And then he opens up his wings, and then you can tell that this is pretty much Batman using the fear toxin. But it's the same demonic effect that Scarecrow scene is here again. And then Batman lunges up the person. After you get this, you get With this game, they had like artwork and stuff. There's our artwork of demonic Batman, and then the little text for it says, "Is this real?" And it's just question mark. I feel like this was a really strong ending to the series. That I feel like they should have left it here. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, no, it's an amazing ending to the series. The problem is that they don't leave it here. But as a way like to end Batman's character arc, it is kind of perfect. It's just I feel like the way you end Batman is very much just his identity gets revealed. Like that's very much the big thing, and I don't think it's earned that Scarecrow is the one to do it, but still, it very much fits that like Scarecrow is the one to do it, or like he is the one to finally unmask Batman. And at that point, Batman doesn't care because he knows at the end of the day, he will find a successor. He will find someone else to take care of the night, and he has to like let it go and move on. Retire on a beach somewhere or something. It fits very well for his character arc in this game and just the whole trilogy as a whole.
What do you think, Chet?
Yeah, so like the ending I saw on like I didn't watch like the full ending. I just saw like a picture of it where this man just burns everything down, and I thought that like it's a good way to end Batman's arc. Like, I mean, they even tell you in the beginning, right? Where he's like, "This is how I die," and then they show you, and then you play through it, and like, yeah, they show you that thing. But I'm not a fan of like just like I get what they're doing in that they want to keep the franchise going, but how do you make another game without Batman? Like that's the fun part, and
Okay,
that's why Suicide Squad isn't as hype.
we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Before we move off of this game did have a lot of post content DLC. So it had a prequel DLC story, which was pretty lengthy, where you get to play as Batgirl, and this is before she gets paralyzed. You play as that. You get a story as Red Hood, where he's fully Red Hood, and this takes place post game, and this is Red Hood just cleaning up the city. But his version, he kills people. I think he kills Black Mask, like straight up. He's like, Batman's not here to save you. I'm not Batman. I'm gonna kill you, and he does. You get one as Robin. This is directly before Barbara and Tim get married, and you take off Two Face. You got one of Nightwing, and he's just hanging out, having a chill time being Nightwing, talking to Lucius, and Penguin just rolls up. And you deal with Penguin. And the final one is Harley Quinn, and she just eating people up. That was really just the deal thing that I think. On top of that, there was also they made a lot of playable characters. So you had Batman, Azrael was playable, Red Hood. You also had a skin for the Arkham Knight, Harley Quinn, Nightwing, Robin, Catwoman. Catwoman had a DLC too. Or who was she going after? I forgot. But she had a short DLC. It wasn't really that important though. And I think that was it. It was like fucking like almost 7 to 8 playable characters in this game. And they added a lot of challenge maps. I think like almost every challenge map imaginable they added from previous games. There's a lot of content in this game. But yeah, that's Arkham Knight.
Yeah, it was
Any
a lot of content that I just didn't want to fuck around with.
any final thoughts on this interesting game? What would you guys rate it?
I don't really hate the game. I think people are a little too aggressive on this game. I do enjoy the story well enough, and as awful as the Bat Tank is, the gameplay for Batman is at its peak. It is very much just peak Batman combat, showcasing the true, just showcasing the evolution from Asylum to this game now, and seeing how the militia responds to Batman's like abilities and like their strategies, like slowly finding a way to get past every single and there's so many more like there's motherfuckers with like electric knuckle dusters effectively. There's those guys that like their bodies don't appear on detective vision, so you have to like actually look for them. I love stuff like that where like you see the game adapt their enemies towards how you toward like they it adapts the enemies in a way that like it affects your move set. It affects how like your playstyle to where you have to utilize other options. And I love when games do that. And it's a very rare and very difficult thing to do right. But when they do it right, it works. But again, that Bat Tank and just weird issues with the story and the narrative, it's still an 8 out of 10 to me. Like I think it is the weakest of the trilogy, but like I can't really like. There was a point where I'm like, it's a 7, but like the Bat Tank doesn't affect my enjoyment that severely to put it down there. It is still an 8 out of 10 video game to me, and like we all said, this game is fucking beautiful. So that's definitely a plus in that favor.
What about you, Jeff? What you played? What would you give it?
Okay, so yeah, that's really tough because like I can't really grade since I didn't play through the whole thing, but just for the portion I did, I think uh, I'd put it at like a 7.5, just because the Batman parts were still really fun, and like just driving around, like even without the tank, it was just a really fun like experience. That like, yeah, you get to drive in this beautiful world. And also another bonus was with the DLC, you get to change your costume and the Batmobile. Like I went with the Adam West, the blue suit, and the Batmobile. I thought that was sick.
I love that Adam West so much. Um, I think this game is a solid 8 out of 10. When I say that this is the worst, keep in mind this is the worst out of the best. That is very important to say. These are hands down
Oh yeah, of
definitively the
course.
best Batman games and some of the best superhero games there are on the market. Period. So when I say this is the worst out of them, I don't mean it's a bad game. It's just a fucking bad thing. But yeah, I would give
It's
it
that
8 out of 10.
if they remove the Bat Tank, it's like a 9. Like that's what's so funny. It's just the Bat Tank alone.
You remove the Bat Tank and you fix up, but I feel like Arkham Knight's story, besides the fact that it does, like, if you touched it up a bit, it would have worked pretty well. I would have given it a 9. It could have been the best one in the series, in my opinion.
Easily, no, like that's the funny thing. It very easily could have been the best thing in the series, but just remove the Bat Tank. That's all you had to do, and obviously tighten some other aspects around the story.
So this game was the finale of the trilogy, but Rocksteady, they were not finished. So we know what happened after this. So what ended up happening was that Rocksteady, they were like, okay, well, what if we do another Batman game? And we said it in the far future, but maybe we'll have Damian be the protagonist. Warner Brothers said no. Well, they were like, how about Batman Beyond? You know, he's pretty cool. How about him? Warner Brothers said no. Then they're like, what about we just do Superman and do a Superman trilogy, which has not been done yet. Warner Brothers said no. What ended up happening was that around the time that this came out, this live action Suicide Squad came out, and Warner Brothers was like, no, you guys can't make a Suicide Squad game in the Arkham universe. And that's what ended up happening. So this game, Suicide Squad, does take place in the Arkham universe. And I actually had the chance to play it due to the alpha preview that is they now removed the DMC. Like, you can talk about this game now. Inside of that game, they show how Batman, after he faked his death, he went into hiding. He didn't reveal himself. But eventually, the Justice League came and got formed, and Superman came and he recruited him. And now Batman is a former member of the Justice League. Then Brainiac came and invaded everything, and that's how the game starts. Earlier, I mentioned that Poison Ivy became a little plant. It got revealed that that little plant turned into a brand new Poison Ivy, who's not the one that we know. She's brand new. She's kind of like they pulled a group from the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I don't know if you guys. Pretty much like Poison Ivy's daughter. Yeah, this game looks like ass. What do you think?
I
Yep.
mean,
Uh,
listen. Suicide Squad is that's a tax return right there, baby. I just I can't quite understate enough like the little amount of hype I have for this game. That I don't even have any hype. It's negative hype. I just want to point something out. They had previews for this game, and the previews came back negative. Do you want to know what other game had previews? Redfall. Redfall's previews were positive. So if even Redfall had positive previews and you couldn't make Suicide Squad have positive previews, listen, I'm just gonna say, if you drafted Suicide Squad in your fantasy league, God bless your soul. I have zero faith in this game. Maybe I'm wrong. I think from what we see in the cutscenes, like Rocksteady still have their great writing chops. But oh my god, guys, I cannot understand enough. I am so fucking sick of the Suicide Squad. This is the I don't know why we had like 5 Suicide Squad things in a row, but I am tired of this group of characters. They somehow made me sick of Harley Quinn, whereas like in the Arkham games, I love her, and now I'm like, oh my god, no more fucking Harley Quinn, please. I love Deadshot. Who the fuck is this Captain Boomerang fucker? I've never cared about Captain Boomerang. King Shark is cool, I guess, but these characters just don't interest me as much as fucking Batman, or at the very least, try to do something Superman related. I just sick of it.
So you mentioned story. Unfortunately, as it does happen in this industry, games got leaked. And this was one of the games that get leaked pretty heavily with its story. It is it is something. Without getting into details, a lot of people in the Arkham community who are big fans of this series feel as if they took everything they built and completely thrown it out the window. As somebody who's seen the leaks, but I'm not gonna get into them, I 100% agree. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. So when this game was revealed in like I think 2021, right? When they showed the first trailer, or it might have been 2020, like the DC fandom thing, which had all these DC trailers, right? And and then when they revealed it, I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm excited. Rocksteady logo, this is something new. I'm willing to give it a shot. And then the rumors came that it's gonna be live service, and I was like, fuck. and now, like you just hearing like the leaks, and then also just seeing the UI just be atrocious. It's giving me less and less confidence, and unless they put Slipknot who can climb things, I don't see this game working.
Yeah, that's rough.
Slipknot?
Slipknot, yeah, yeah. In the 2016 Suicide Squad, they introduced him as this is Slipknot. He can climb things.
Right, you know what? At least they're accurate.
On that note, no, the end this on a brighter note. If you were to hypothetically make another continuation of the Arkham universe, what would you guys like to see? That's how I wanted to end this on.
I don't.
Personally, I
Go ahead.
think
You go first. Yeah.
Batman Beyond should be a thing. He is a
Yes.
fantastic character.
Yes.
Terry McGinnis is amazing. People would have loved it. It can work in the Arkham universe. I don't think it's gonna happen given what I know about Suicide Squad. They, I feel like that's the direction they should go. They can make
My
the Batwing a
oh,
vehicle. Playable like flying vehicle would be awesome in Neo Gotham.
yeah, the one idea I have is where they make Superman evil like in some of the comics, and Batman is fighting the evil Superman, but like I kind of hope they pull a Spider-Man 2, and then you can just play as Superman at a certain point. I think that would be really cool.
That would be pretty cool.
I mean, I don't know what else you can really do. I think just like Arkham Universe is in that situation where it's kind of done. Like I feel like that Arkham trilogy it ends on that note in Arkham Knight. So I feel like honestly, just do something new. Give me like a Superman game. Like I know that's like we had that rumor for a while that Rocksteady was working on a Superman game, and I feel like that was true, and they just canned it for fucking Suicide Squad,
DC
which is
said no.
insane. But like, I'm sorry.
Right? DC said no.
That is insane to me. That is literally one of your most popular characters. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, I guess a Superman game would have been more interesting. Honestly, anything other than Suicide Squad. That's pretty much how I feel. Like, give me something with one of these characters. Like, we have that Wonder Woman game by Monolith, which I'm actually really excited for now that I know it's using the Nemesis system. Use the Flash, maybe make a Flash game. Just anything other than Suicide is pretty much.
So granted, this is subject to change, but James Gunn, which is like one of the new heads at DC, he did say that the Arkham universe is not finished after Suicide Squad. So take that as you will. Is that it?
Yeah, just like the silence, it's like, oh god,
The
I'm
silence speaks for
scared.
itself, folks. But yeah, guys, that was our food coma and retrospective trilogy. You guys, it was very fun talking with you guys about this series. That means a lot to me. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, this is definitely like I'm glad that this series exists. I'm glad that there's these experiences that like, that you get to play a series of games where you can be the Batman, and like you just said, it felt like almost like a, a gaming revolution for this type of genre, for this type of combat, where it's like, yeah, like there are a lot of games that just use it as a template, and yeah, I'm glad for Rocksteady that for going ahead with it.
I agree. Even if Suicide Squad sucks, like it most likely will, we will always have this trilogy, and we can just pretend the game never existed. But yeah,
Yeah,
guys, thank you for listening and watching of this decently sized food coma. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll come check out some of our old, our other food comas that we have and other videos. We have a few more in the works that we hope you guys will be excited about. And yeah, that's all, folks. Have a good night.
good night.